Hey guys, I pray that you guys are having an amazing Thursday night. It's like Thursday. That's bad for me not to know the day. But I am here. I know I did a lesson on Tuesday, but I told you guys I would likely come back. I didn't necessarily consider Tuesday our middle of the week lesson. Um, it was just more of me just kind of running through a bunch of thoughts that I had going on at the time. I do that quite a bit. Even in my mentorship program, I got different things that I just record when I'm doing my makeup, just different lessons. But that's neither here nor there. What's on my heart to teach you guys tonight is to talk about introversion. For those of you who identify as introverts, hello, hello, Sister Ro, how are you, beautiful lady? For those of you who identify as introverts, tonight you're gonna get some clarity. Tonight, you're going to get some understanding. Tonight, you're going to walk away from this feeling refreshed. You're going to walk away from this feeling seen. You're going to walk away from this feeling like you know what you need to do. I know a lot of times when it comes down to being an introvert, there can be this thing, you can kind of feel stuck at times. You can find yourself in this place where um, it just feels like your life is a cycle or a circle. And tonight I'm going to help you to come out of that, help you to understand how to come out of that. Do me a favor. Most of you, hello, beautiful people. I love y'all. I love y'all. Do me a favor. Most of us know an introvert. So my challenge to you, like, share, but be sure to also tag some introverts. Tag a few people that can benefit from this. I'm telling you that this is going to be good. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be practical and revelatory at the same time. So get on in the room. Get on in the room. And let me just apologize. My allergies have been trying to act up, and I felt that thing. So if I got my paper towels on deck just in case I start having an allergic, if these allergies, not my allergies, but these allergies start trying to act out, it's because we are having this fluctuation in weather. So today was hot, and I had my heater on all day, even though it was hot outside. Yesterday was relatively warm, so the nighttime can get a little bit cool, but this happens to be Georgia or what have you. But for those of you who don't know, that is a label that I kind of ascribe to as well as being an introvert. And there was a season in my life, like most people, like many of you, that I didn't know what I was. There was a season in my life. I can honestly say one of the hardest or worst things that you can do is get married before knowing who you are. Because a lot of times it can be problematic because you're trying to explain to another human being, like, hey, I really don't want to go, or what have you. If you happen to be an introvert married to an extrovert, or an introvert that has been in a relationship, a close relationship with an extrovert, you know how hard it can be because they don't understand your wiring. They don't understand what makes you you. They don't understand, for example, when you're sitting there, you're like, I really don't want to go. One of the things that I used to always feel, like when my ex would bring his extroverted tail home and talking about good news, we got a dinner reservation, I would get anxiety almost immediately. Because one thing about being an introvert is that you don't care to go sit with people that you don't know, right? You don't care because you don't know. I can say this, and it's in my notes, but we'll deal with it, as we touch it. One thing about introverts is that we are subconsciously aware of what I call an energy vampire. And a lot of times we know that they're out there, what have you, and we don't want to go places because we don't want to find ourselves, for example, at a table with somebody that's just a bit too much, right? That's just overbearing. It's like, where you get that necklace from? Oh, I got it from off Amazon. That's real nice. I thought that was a real diamond. No, your hair is real pretty. It's real pretty. Thank you. And so in that, they're just kind of pulling information out of you without giving information. And that can be really problematic for people who identify themselves as an introvert. That could be overwhelming whenever you come in contact with people, especially if you find yourself in a relationship. And when you're in a relationship, they're taking you around people that you ordinarily would not fool with, right? They're taking you around, especially family members of theirs that you would not ordinarily fool with, people that you wouldn't rock with, people that you wouldn't have anything to do with. And now you find yourself over there trying to be, nice. And then these people are coming up to you and they're doing all kinds of things that make you uncomfortable. They're going outside of your boundaries, right? They sitting up there reaching into your hair. Oh, your hair. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't touch my hair. Yeah, are you don't touch. I don't want to seem stuck up. I don't want to seem weird. But could you not do that? Oh, she a little feisty. She a little feisty. So whenever we have interactions like that, a lot of times what it can do is it can cause us to feel overwhelmed. It can cause us to feel frustrated. It can cause us to start getting drained. But that's neither here nor there. I'm waiting till the number get up to 100. I'm waiting till the number get up to 100. So do me a favor, be sure to like and be sure to share so that we can get these numbers up. But I don't want to continue to push this thing off. So let's go ahead and get into the lesson. The first thing I'm going to start off is I'm going to give you a definition from WebMD for the word introvert. And it says an introvert is a person with qualities or of a personality type known as introversion, which means that they feel more comfortable focusing on their inner thoughts and ideas rather than what's happening externally. They enjoy spending, they enjoy spending time with just one or two people. Ain't that the truth? Rather than large groups or crowds. And the source is WebMD. It's funny because I talk about my sister in Christ that I met in Florida. And I had prayed and asked the Lord to bless me with a friend, and he brought her into my life. And she, absolutely, I don't like to call people's names or what have you, even though y'all don't know her. I'll call her Donna. I met Donna when I was living in Florida. And Donna was a bona fide extrovert. But Donna used to catch me walking or what have you, so we would walk together. And one thing that I loved that she did, which had not always been my experience with extrovert. So for those of you who are extroverted, I pray that you take some lessons. You guys need to tag some extroverts as well, because they need to learn how you operate. They need to learn how you function, and they need to learn why you're not coming to the cookout, why you're not always around or what have you. They need to come to understand it. But one thing that I respected about her is that she had a high degree of relational acuity. She started realizing that, hey, I don't want to be around, like these groups of people, especially your friends. I don't know them. Or she started realizing that. And so she would ask me, she'd say, hey, I'm going out with my friends this weekend. Are we going here? Do you want to join us? I would love for you to join us, but I know how you are. And I'm like, nah. She said, I figured you want, but I did want to go ahead and extend the invitation to you. And I appreciated that because how many of y'all know as introverts, I'm gonna call it out. Some of the stuff we do is messed up. We get mad if we don't get the invite, but we really don't want to come either. That's messed up. We get mad if we don't get the invite. We'll get frustrated. We feel some type of way, like you didn't even want me around. You didn't invite me. But at the same time, if you invite us, in all our honesty, we may start feeling a little bit of anxiety, not necessarily wanting to go. So that's the part of the introvert that even me myself, I can say that is problematic. It's not always good or what have you. So again, an introvert is a person with qualities of a personality type known as introversion, which means that they feel more comfortable focusing on their inner thoughts and ideas rather than what's happening externally. They enjoy spending time with just one or two people rather than large groups or crowds. This is Source MD. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you the different types of introverts. And I want you to be able to better understand how you're wired. Right? I know we talk about this as an overall term, but one of the things I've come to realize is that even though we have language for it, I think that one of the biggest issues that we still have, and one of the biggest reasons that a lot of us don't go and function the way that we should be functioning, or function the way we are designed to function, is because we're still looking for more language. And I pray that tonight you get that language. So I'm going to go ahead and read another thing that I got from WebMD. Then we're going to get into what causes people to become introverts. What causes people to become introverts? So the first thing, this comes from WebMD. Scientists don't know for sure if there's a cause for introversion or extroversion. What they do know is the brains of the two personality types work a little differently from each other. Researchers have found that introverts have a higher blood flow to their frontal lobe than extroverts do. Again, this comes from WebMD. I actually forgot to do this, but I wanted to look up to see like what is the frontal lobe responsible for or what have you. But researchers have found again that introverts have a higher blood flow than their frontal lobe than extroverts do. All right. So what causes people to become extroverts? And this is just my own research, my own, counseling and what I've seen and what the Lord has taught me. But what causes people to become introverts? Let's make this interactive. If you happen to be an introvert and I call your name, okay. If I say is this, then put the number associated with you. So if I say number one, if that's what you believe caused you to become an introvert, then just hit number one or put number one in the chat. If it's number two, put two in there. If it's three, put three in there. You get it. All right. What causes people to become introverts? Number one, genetics. We're just born that way. I think most of us can say we were just born that way. If you look over the course of your life, you probably find that you have always enjoyed your time alone. I can say that I was in my younger years kind of ambiverted. In my younger years, I enjoyed my time alone, but I used to go out to the parties. I used to go to the clubs. I enjoyed being around certain friends or what have you. But most of the times, it's genetics. It's genetics. Number two, environment. And when I'm talking about environment, I'm not just talking about the environment you're in. I'm talking about the environments that you have been in. Let me say this. If you've been like if your world has always been, let's say, for example, controlling people, dominant people, that's been your world. So you may think the whole world is like that because you don't have a lot of experience when it comes to people. So your relational acuity is not that great. It doesn't mean that you're not wise. It doesn't mean that you don't have potential, but it just means that your world has been limited, right? You grew up in a poor family, for example. You had really toxic people around you. That was my story. Really toxic people around you over the course of your life. And so your world becomes really incredibly small. And if that is you, one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to go outside, is to get around people that you wouldn't ordinarily talk to. I remember God started bringing me out of that back in my younger years, even when I was not saved. I talked about this young lady that I became friends with. We became really close friends, but she was somebody I wouldn't ordinarily talk to because I had this thought about her. And the friends that I had, we all had the same thought about her because she would just be walking around like, oh my gosh, and you had me. So we had this thought that she was just really conceited, high-minded, and at the same time, it didn't help that she didn't always speak. Sometimes you could walk by her and she'd just be walking and she would have her head in the air and she would just be looking straight up ahead and you say hello. And so we got to the point, I know for me personally, and I think some of my friends, I got to the point where we just didn't speak to her at all because we just thought she was kind of airheaded and thought so much about herself. But then I ended up getting to know her. She come over there, she tells me, hey, your friends aren't your friends, all this other stuff. Then we start talking and we end up going to lunch. We start hanging together. And I found that she had one of the most beautiful hearts that I'd ever seen. I found that she was not only beautiful externally, but she was beautiful internally. I found, I discovered some stuff about her that I didn't know had I not gotten to know her. And that experience alone changed me as a person. It taught me not to judge people just because they act a certain way. Get to know them first, and then you can sit back and you can give a proper judgment, but don't judge people externally. So, environment. Your environment can cause you to become an introvert, which means that if your environment changes you into that, that means that you're probably not an introvert, but you became introverted over time. You could be an extrovert. But because of your environment or what have you, because your world is small, you're only comfortable around your own world. One of the things I will say, even though it wasn't the will of God for me to go into that relationship, even though it wasn't the will of God for me to go into sin, one of the things that happened when I got into that second marriage was that I ended up traveling to other countries. And in me traveling to other countries, I found myself sitting at tables with people that spoke other languages, that had histories and lifestyles that were completely mind-boggling. And I tell people this all the time. It's a blessing to be around people that force you to shut up. And I'm not saying they tell you to shut up. I'm saying because you can't relate to them. And so whenever you can relate to a person, you kind of start having these double Dutch conversations, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you get around people that have had lifestyles, I remember sitting and talking to a lady, for example, who grew up in a polygamous household. I was all ears and less mouth. I was all ears and less mouth because here it is. I'm talking to this female that's got this experience that I'm like, what? What? So what was that like? So I found myself interviewing her and learning. And what that taught me is that if you open yourself up to get to know different types of people, one, ignorance starts to diminish. Your ignorance starts to diminish. Your love actually begins to grow. Ignorance is an enemy of love, not just hatred, but ignorance is an enemy of love. Your love begins to grow for people, and at the same time, it increases your relational acuity, and it actually makes you want to be around different people. Like, so for example, for me right now, I want to learn different types of people. I don't want to limit myself to the United States of America. I actually want to retire in other countries. I want to get to the place where I want to buy property in other countries. I want to get up and go to another country and stay there for months at a time. Honestly, I'm being honest. I want to get up. I want to have a property in South Africa. I want to be able to get up and say, yeah, I don't feel like dealing with the winter in America. I'm going to South Africa. I really don't feel like dealing with this. Or if we have something crazy going on, I want to say, yep, I'm about to go to my house in England. I want to go over here. I'm saying this to say that once you start to come out of that, once you start to increase your relational acuity, I got books on relational acuity. They call relational acuity 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go to Amazon and get them. They will bless your life. But when you begin to increase your relational acuity, um, it helps you to see whether or not you're truly introverted. It helps you to build better relationships. I think one of the keys or the master keys to managing your introversion is you coming to understand what it is that you need rather than you just shutting yourself into what you're used to. I hope that makes sense. Rather than you just shutting yourself into the familiar, but you getting out and coming around people and realizing, hey, I need this conversation. I need a friend like this. I need people like this in my life. This is what I've been missing. You don't know that if you have limited yourself. All right. What causes people to become introverts? Number one was genetics. Number two was environment. Number three is trauma. Trauma. You've experienced quite a deal of trauma to the point where you just don't trust people now. You don't want to come out because you don't want to deal with the ghettoism, the foolishness, you don't want to deal with none of it. You don't want to deal with nobody coming to you and just doing anything crazy. You just feel safe in your own house. You feel safe with yourself. You feel safe with your select few. You have a few people that you may rock with, but you really just don't want to go out and deal with anybody. Trauma. Most introverts or most people who become introverted over time have dealt with great deals of trauma, have dealt with great deals of trauma. And I dare to say this, I think that this is what keeps a lot of you away from going to a psychiatrist or a therapist, is because a lot of times in your mind, it's me going to another human being and pouring out my heart to a complete stranger and telling them the stuff that I've been through or what have you. Because if you're an introvert, one thing that you've come to know, and let me know if I'm wrong, one thing that you've come to know, if I pour myself out to a person, if I pour myself out, by the time I get off the phone, sometimes I feel horrible. I feel like I just made a big mistake. That comes from trauma. I'm telling you, this has been me. I feel like I just made a big mistake. I think I said way too much. I feel like I just made a big mistake. If I told a person like the extent of my life, if I told them all the crazy stuff that I've been through in my life, and I'm sitting up there and I'm talking, and we just sat here and talk for hours, I'm probably gonna feel crappy when I hang up the phone. I'm probably gonna feel real crappy when I hang up the phone. I feel like you just said way too much. Sometimes I may feel like maybe I talked too much in the conversation. Did I not allow you to speak enough or what have you? Or sometimes I can feel like you probably think something's wrong with me because I done sat here and I done listed like some major traumatic events that I done been through in my life or what have you. The whole conversation is you talking about this and I me, and something. I'm like, oh yeah, I went through something like that or what have you. But trauma. Number four, and listen, this is part of your healing, part of your deliverance is you being honest. Do me a favor, Facebook, I need you to like and share. Facebook, I need you guys to engage. Let me know that you're here by liking and sharing, okay? Like and share. Number four, prophetic sensitivity. Prophetic sensitivity. God wired you as a prophet or an incredibly prophetic person so you can feel the emotions of others. You can feel environments and stuff like that. And you hate that feeling because sometimes you confuse it with yourself. Sometimes you find yourself going into a place and maybe you start feeling anxious, or maybe you feel rejection, or maybe you feel angry and you don't know why you're feeling those emotions. But what you don't understand is because of your sensitivity, whenever you go into a space, you can feel the emotions of other people. And so what that does, when any person that deals with that, especially on a high degree, in most cases will not only isolate themselves, but there are many times where they have to actually isolate themselves because it can be overbearing. It can be tormenting. It can be tormenting. And so a lot of times what people end up doing is prophetic sensitivity, number 4. But a lot of times what they end up doing is, if you, and I'm going to call it out, I'm going to call it out. If you were going to a church, right? Maybe you experienced something that was offensive. To the introvert or the introverted person, a minor offense can sometimes feel major. A minor offense can, because you overthink things, it can sometimes feel major. And you experience the sensitivity. Maybe you're experiencing the emotions of other people up in there. You overthink everything. So consequently, you will run out of a church. You will run out of something. And what you're always trying to do is get back to a certain feeling. But God actually wanted to use that feeling, because I need you to hear me. 9 times out of 10, if you got a high degree of prophetic sensitivity, you're called to be an intercessor. I'm going to call it out. 9 times out of 10, if you have a high degree of prophetic sensitivity, you were never supposed to self-isolate. You were never supposed to do that. I understand the need for it. I understand the feeling. I understand the relief that you get. But realistically speaking, your life does not belong to you. You were never supposed to self-isolate. If you're sitting there, you're supposed to intercede, because you feel and see things that other people can't feel and see. So you were never supposed to run. You were never supposed to run. What you were supposed to do is to sit back and say, let's say you're a part of a ministry team, right? You're a part of a ministry team. And every time you get around your ministry team, you feel anxious and frustrated and angry. You're supposed to intercede, because that's a spirit there. And you don't know why. It could be in you, or it could be in somebody else. You're supposed to intercede. If you're a part of a group, let's say, for example, you got a steppers group in your church, right? Or even any organization. You got people that do like tap dance and stepping and all this other stuff. And every time you get around them, you come up in there and you just feel tired. I'm talking about, you feel drained, you feel overwhelmed. Your job is to intercede, because there's something in the midst that shouldn't be there. And you're feeling that. You're feeling that. And a lot of people who are prophetic don't understand that. So prophetic introverts will isolate themselves. They will self-isolate so that they don't feel it. So they'll quit everything. They'll get away from everything because they're too busy trying to get back to a certain emotion. Your emotions can easily become your God. This is what leads a lot of you into idolatry. And when you fall into the trap of idolatry, you start becoming dog food to the narcissist. And when I say dog food, I'm saying the narcissist is the dog. But you start attracting narcissistic people, because narcissists are attracted to idol worshipers. And so whenever you start to self-isolate, you got to hear me. You find yourself idolizing your own emotions. You find yourself idolizing how you feel. I like how I feel when I'm alone. I like how I feel here. I like how I feel there. God is like, get out. I need to use you. I like how I feel right now. And so you just make everything about you. And even though it feels better, even though it can be relieving, God is saying, what I put in you is going to require you to go out. Sister Armani, thank you. God bless you, beautiful. What I put in you is going to require you to go out. I found out recently. And not recently, last year, I had went to a birthday party of one of my students. You know, her friend had walked up to me and said, "Hey, we're having a birthday party for such and such." Now, typically, I don't go outside. I try to stay from going outside. I just don't be feel like I don't want to go. But I'm like, you know what? She's been a blessing. She's local, so let me just go. So I decided, and I didn't know any better. I had my new car, right? I ended up going downtown Atlanta. I didn't know not to park in one of those paid parking lots. I didn't know that. I drove my brand new car, parked it in that parking space, went into the party. We had a good time. When I came back out, one of my students had, came to the party with me. When I came back out, my window was busted. My window was bust. And the very first thought that I had, this is why I don't go nowhere. You see, this is why. Immediately, God started to check me, and God said, this is what the enemy wants you to say. This is what the enemy is trying. The enemy is trying to keep you in. And so I started. My student, we get in the car. She started saying the same thing. She said, mentor, this is nothing but the enemy, because he doesn't want you coming outside. He this is his way of trying to keep you in. I'm like, yeah, that's what God's laying on my heart. I said the enemy is trying his best because I literally had that thought. Like, see, this is why I don't go anywhere. And a lot of times when I would go places, something not so good would happen. Like when I went out the other day, I ended up having a minor accident, right? Even though it just scraped my rim. It's a minor accident, but thankfully I know now. So I didn't take it, oh, I see this won't go nowhere. I know now the enemy's trying to keep me in. And the reason the enemy's trying to keep me in, I want you to hear me. The enemy came to understand that whenever I go out, I'm yielded. I don't yield myself to God. I live a yielded life. I live a yielded life, which means whenever I go out, I'm going out to just do whatever I'm supposed to do. But guess what? When you live a yielded life, you're looking for opportunities to minister. I'm not saying that you're walking around like this. Is there anybody I can minister to? I'm saying that if you pass by somebody sitting down in the middle of the aisle crying, you're gonna stop and say, "Are you good?" Are you because you have elected to be a blessing. You have elected to be used by God. You carry the love of God. God began to remind me of the first time I got on a cruise ship. Right, I was married at the time, and I this man that had kept coming around, my ex and I, he ended up sitting at the table with us, and he had this really bubbly, funny personality. He seemed to be really cool or what have you. And all of a sudden, he's talking and we're laughing, and I just start talking. And somehow, I ended up talking about suicide, and the man started to break down at the table, and he said that I know this is God because I was actually thinking about taking my life, and I was like, what? And I didn't know because it was one of those things. You ever had a conversation and you don't know why you're saying what you're saying? You're like, this ain't. We weren't even talking about this. How did I go down this rabbit hole? But see, the Lord will pull you down that rabbit hole, and that's what happened to me. My conversation kept turning left, it made a left turn, a right turn. Sister Sherry, thank you. God bless you, beautiful. It made a left turn, a right turn, until I found myself talking to him about suicide. And then he started talking, and he said, I know this is God. I know this is God. So as it turned out, he had been working for, many, many years, taking care of his family. He was, the true definition of a traditional man, a masculine male. He was used to providing for his family. And he didn't feel like a man anymore because they laid him off from his job. He felt like he couldn't provide anymore. And so he felt like they would be better off without him. He felt like if he passed away and they can get the insurance money, this was his way of still trying to provide for his family. But the Lord interrupted that. Went on a cruise ship the second time. The Lord was reminding me of this. Went on a second cruise, and I remember sitting next to this lady on the deck, and we were just hosting a conversation. This is back, some years ago. Holding a conversation with a lady on the deck. I don't remember what her problem was, but I remember just sitting next to her, getting her breakthrough. Why am I telling you this? You guys know we just went on a cruise recently, and we walked into a gay bar, took a man through deliverance, right? So why am I sharing this? I'm saying this to say the reason the enemy tries to keep you in is because he knows that once you go out, that prophetic sensitivity, for those of you who are prophetically sensitive, is going to be activated. And then you're going to end up interceding because you're called to intercede. You're going to mess around and intercede or encourage somebody. And that they're playing, that the enemy's plan to get them to commit suicide. The enemy's plan to get them to go out and hurt people. The enemy's plan to get them to do whatever it is that he wants them to do. It's going to be foiled. This is why he keeps you in. This is why he keeps you in. All right. Prophetic sensitivity, number 5. Social awkwardness. Now, I want you to put in parentheses people pleasing. Social awkwardness. At the end of the day, you got to be okay with being awkward. At the end of the day, you got to be okay with not necessarily fitting the mold. I think I intentionally try not to fit into a mold because I don't like to be defined by cultures and norms, and I don't like that kind of stuff. For me, at the end of the day, I just want to be Tiffany. That's it. I just want to be me. But social awkwardness. Sometimes that you may find yourself out and people talking to you, and they may say something, and maybe it like for me, I've learned that like if you're having the conversation is going too fast, right? If everything's moving too fast, I'm probably going to put my foot in my mouth because we have to have times. Introverts or people who identify as introverted people, we have to have time to think things through. So you may say something. I'm going to say something probably that's not going to be that sensitive, or something that's not going to sound that good, and then I'm gonna be that probably torment me. Oh crap! I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I said that. I wasn't trying to say this. I meant to say that. And so a lot of times, I remember back in my younger years, especially I would isolate myself. I would stay away from fast talkers. Because if I got around somebody that was moving too fast in their conversation and they don't give you time to speak, they don't give you time to kind of interject, and you're always trying to rush something out. I already knew I was gonna put my foot in my mouth. I already knew I was gonna put my foot in my mouth. I already knew I was gonna say something, and then I was going to regret it. What causes people to become introverts? Number 6, shyness. You can put in parentheses fear. Shyness. You shy. You don't like eye contact. You feel weird around people. Let me say this: not all introverts are shy. Not all introverts are shy. I'm not shy, but most people think that I am. I'm not shy. Now I can have shy moments. I can, like, there are certain things that you can't get me to do in front of people, and it would make me feel shame, but I'm not necessarily shy as a person. However, the way my personality is set up, a lot of people actually think that I am. A lot of people think that I am. But shyness. A lot of introverts deal with shyness, but not all introverts are shy. Not all introverts are shy. You put in parentheses fear. Sometimes it can be fear of what's going on in somebody's head. I need you to repeat this after me right now. I release myself from the fear of what others think of me in Jesus' name. You're worried about what's going on in their head. If they look at you weird, you're like, oh, don't think I'm crazy. I'm just doing this. Whatever. You have to release yourself from that. You have to release yourself from that. Number 7, it's seasonal. It's seasonal. That means that there are people out there who are seasonally introverted. And when I say seasonally introverted, they're not necessarily introverts, but they have seasonal introversion, whereas they have an assignment. And so they, like, they're writing a book or they're doing something, they become introverted in that season. Once they're done doing that, most of the times they go back to their regularly scheduled programming of being an introvert, of being an ambivert, or being an extrovert. But some people are seasonal introverts. Seasonal. Number 8 is spiritual. It's spiritual. What I mean by this is you need deliverance, that you're being tormented. The enemy has hijacked your wiring. The enemy has been overwhelming you with thoughts and torment. And like I said, overthinking, being drained. It's like a combination of all these things. When you go out, the enemy utilizes all that. And then what he does is he puts all of these thoughts in your mind. There's too much spiritual warfare going on whenever you're out in public. And so consequently, it is easier for you to self-isolate than to go out there. It is easier for you to self-isolate. Number 9, we're gonna skip that one because I don't know. It's the same thing I wrote down. I got awkwardness, and I already wrote social awkwardness. Well, I'll go with that one. Social awkwardness and awkward. This is awkward. Awkwardness. Basically, you're just awkward. You're an awkward person. You really don't care to be around people. So we just move on from there. Number 10, last one. Distrust of self and others. Distrust of self and others. You distrust yourself because you've been around not so great people quite a bit in your life, and you're afraid of how you're going to respond if you come in contact with certain types of people. Maybe you're afraid that you're going to cuss them out. Maybe you're afraid that you're going to lay them hands on them. Or maybe you're afraid of what people are going to do to you. You're afraid of what people are going to say. You're afraid of what people are going to do to you, or what have you. So you would much rather isolate. Let's talk about some of the characteristics of introversion. We're going to get to the different types of introverts soon, but let's get through this list. Characteristics of introversion. Number 1, you prefer your own company or small crowds. You prefer your own company or small crowds. You don't care to be out with a party or what have you. Don't invite me. It's going to be a lot of people. Number 2, you love counsel plans. Isn't that a beautiful thing when people make plans with you and then they counsel them? For me, it can be it can be either way. I don't mind council plans the day before. I get annoyed at council plans the day of. Unless it's like later and you tell me early. But if I'm getting dressed, and I have mentally prepared myself, and then you counsel, then I have an attitude. But you love counsel plans. Most introverts love counsel plans. You call and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I was gonna go do this, and I know we said we were gonna go do this, but I ain't gonna be able to make it tomorrow. You're like, oh girl, you good? You straight? You okay? Number 3, you hate making plans What is this I wrote down? Okay. You hate making plans ahead of time because you don't know how you will feel the day of the event. You hate making plans ahead of time because you don't know how you will feel the day of the event. I hate when people say, hey, what's today's date? November 16th. How about November 24th? Let's go to the zoo. It'll give me a measure of, I don't want to say anxiety, but it can be, feeling a little bit anxious. Because one, I don't know how I'm gonna feel that day. I don't know what the weather's gonna be like. I genuinely don't know how I'm gonna feel that day. So consequently, I may say yes, but I'm like, what have you? I think for me, at the end of the day, and I know this is not every introvert, but I know for me personally, I like stuff that is like right around the corner. Like, hey, what you doing tomorrow? Or the day of, hey girl, what you doing? What you doing? I'm not nothing. I'm in my house. Let's go out. Let's go out. I ain't doing nothing. I'm cool. If I'm sitting around the house, I don't mind. But stuff that's like planned in the future can give me anxiety. I'm a part of a church, and um I'm a part of Embassy Church, right? I'm a member of Embassy Church. I'm one of the elders of Embassy Church. And even when they have all these different events coming up, everybody be like, clap, clap, clap. My mind goes into, because now I got to put it on my schedule. And now I got to mentally prepare myself for it. Now, when I get to the event, I'm happy to be there. But before, I'm like, before especially if we have a real long calendar of stuff, I'd just be like, Lord, is it me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Because why am I not excited? Why am I not this? Why am I not that? But once I get there, I'm good. But before then, nah, my brain just says I don't want to go. Number 4, you want to know who is going to be at an event before you agree to go. This is because you hate energy vampires. You want to know who's going to be at an event before you go because you hate energy vampires. Somebody call you and say, "Hey, girl, what you doing? Nothing. You want to come out to eat? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I've already. We had Olive Garden. Who all there? Introverts will always ask that question. Who all there? And the reason for that is because we want to know, is there an energy vampire there? Because we probably met some of your friends. We want to know if overbearing Keisha is there with her ghetto self and she gonna, I ain't coming. Or if you're gonna have a stranger there, I ain't coming because I don't know them. Or what have you. They may turn out to be they may turn out to be an energy vampire, what have you. Right? I always ask that. Who you said who gonna be there? Who you said who gonna be there? Oh girl, just my girl, such and such. If I met the girl and I think she cool, okay. You tell me 3, 4, 5, 6 people coming. Girl, I'm gonna give you a rain check. You just said you was coming. I love you. I do. I really love you. I really love you. I'll say it this way. Most of the time we do that because we didn't make plans to be drained. I think that when you identify as an introvert, and I know some religious person gonna come on here and say, "Yeah, not introvert, your children of God." This is just this is just something that how people identify. And so I don't want to say if you happen to have these characteristics when I can summarize it into one word. But we a lot of times, for me, I'll say this. Yesterday was it yesterday? My plan yesterday was to sit at the house. I've had to go somewhere every day. I've had to go somewhere every day. What was yesterday? And yeah, I had to teach my class yesterday. So my plan was to sit at the house before I had to teach my class. I think that was yesterday. But the day before that, yeah, it was yesterday. The day before that, some of my nails broke. This one here broke all the way down. It just broke. It broke. This one right here was cracked out. I mean, broke all the way on the side. Like it was a hot mess. And this one I discovered it was a crack in it. I found this Tuesday, but my nail shop don't open on Tuesday. So I had to sit there. I didn't plan to go out yesterday. That for me is frustrating because, hear me, most of the time, and this is just me giving language, I didn't plan to be zapped. I didn't plan to be zapped before class. I didn't plan to go out there and have to get around people. I had planned to sit in my house and chill and be rested up by the time I get to class. But instead, I had to make some runs. I had to run some errands. Then I had to go there and get my nails fixed. By the time I got home, I did what most introverts do. I took my happy tail upstairs and I laid, of course, I took those clothes off because I don't wear my clothes that I wore out, and get in my bed. But so I stripped myself down, jumped right there in the bed and laid there. Laid there. I set my alarm. And by the time class came, when I tell you I wanted to cancel class, usually I sent out the email a little bit earlier. I didn't send out the email till it was almost time to class. One of the emails for my 2.0 class, 3.0 class, I actually forgot to send an email out. I thought I had sent it out. When I tell you I was zapped, I was zapped. And I think it was largely due to the fact that the nail tech that was fixing my nails, I've never had her before. I've had almost every nail tech in that shop. I think I've had every nail tech in that shop. And I just remember thinking that plenty of times, every time I would see her, she's real bubbly, but I've never had her before. So she had to fix my nails yesterday. And even though she can be bubbly, she didn't feel that bubbly with me. She didn't feel that she was on the phone. And nothing, she did a great job. I always knew that she was excellent and what have you, but it wasn't the most like, it wasn't like my normal experience. Those type of things zap us. And so I came home, I stripped down, I got in my bed, and I laid there. Okay. I laid there. I was dozing off. I was trying to write my notes up for class. A sister girl had to lay all the way down. Okay. By the time class came, I looked like this. I look like this. Number 6. Nope, nope, nope. Number 5. Number 5, you can typically give 2 hours of your time to an event or gathering, especially if there's someone there that drains you. I can go places and I can hang out with you for 2 hours. Unless I really like the conversation and we cool, I can hang out with you all day. But for the most part, if you're in a space with people that drain you or anything like that, you got 2 hours for them. I got 2 hours. I got 2 hours before my mind starts shutting down. 2 hours before is one of two things that's gonna happen. I'm either gonna start falling asleep or I'm gonna turn into a major comedian. I'm gonna start talking crazy. You got 2 hours. You got 2 hours. Unless we are having really good conversation, and we're having really good conversation, you got several hours, right? You got several hours. But other than that, no. You said if they're right, you got 2 hours. After that, it's a wrap. Let me say this to the female introverts. Facebook, y'all, I love y'all, but y'all don't be liking and sharing over there. I be talking about unplugging y'all. They ain't unplugged y'all yet. I need you to do me a favor, like and share. I don't want to unplug Facebook, but don't be stingy. Don't be stingy. But let me say this to the female introverts, those of you identify as an introvert. Anywho, you in many cases are a man's dream. You are. You know why? Because did I get to that one? Yeah, you hate number 6. You hate small talk. You really don't want to beat around the bush. You want to go straight to the point. Am I wrong? You're not like the other female. They want to build a case and go through all of this and go through the layers and stuff like that. You will do that. Don't get me wrong in your immaturity. But for the most part, as you start to heal and grow, you don't like the small talk. You don't want to beat around the bush. You don't want none of that. You are a man's dream because with men, typically you got 2 minutes to make your point before they check out mentally. Typically you got 2 minutes, and that's what they're gonna get from you. They'll get to the point. You'll get to the point really quick. Now, in some cases, that can is good, but in some cases, that can get you accused of being rude because the point or the purpose of building your case is to keep people from getting offended, but you're not going to do that because you really don't feel like doing all that. So you will sit back and say, hey, yeah, you talking to your ex-girlfriend is a no-go for me. You're not going to go and say, how would you like it if I talked to my ex? How would you feel? Okay, so just imagine if I was talking to Tony and if you had come home and found me on the phone with Tony, you're probably not going to do all that. You could but you're probably not going to do all that. You're going to make it really clear, straight, blunt. You talking to your ex is a no-go. You just lost my trust. And if this is going to be a thing, there can be no us. Did I just rhyme? Did I just rhyme? If that's going to be a thing for you, I'm not okay with that. That's the thing. So I said you could be a man's dream, but if he's not mature, you could be a man's nightmare. If he's not mature enough to understand that, hey, you're not being ugly, it's crazy because men will complain about the women who go around the runway, who like to build a case, take 5 minutes to get to a point. But they'll also complain about the woman that gives them an appointment in a minute. It's a hard thing, right? The woman that takes too long, the man's gonna check out in 2 minutes, and she's too busy building her case, and she got all this stuff put in her portfolio. She got all this stuff put together in her head, every event, all of that. But to the introvert, and I'm talking about the mature introvert. I'm not talking about the immature introvert. To the mature introvert, usually it's gonna be a direct, right? Bars. Usually it's gonna be a direct hit. It's gonna be like, nope, I'm not okay with that. How you gonna just tell me you're not okay with that? You don't. Period. Point blank. What do you want me to tell you? So why aren't you okay with it? I'm not okay with it. But why? Why do you want me to build? If I told you I'm not okay with something, why is that a thing? Right. Most men love that. Once they come to know you and they know that you're solid and you love them and what have you, they actually appreciate that. But if they're immature or if they're insecure, they can take that the wrong way. They can take that to mean that you don't, why are you being so rude? I'm not being rude. I just don't feel like talking for 5 minutes about something when I can get straight to the point. I value my time. But again, you hate small talk. Number 7, you are masterful at solving problems when you're healed. Okay. You are masterful at solving problems, but the problem is you avoid problematic situations and people. You are excellent because you overthink everything. You are excellent at solving problems, but a lot of times people don't get a chance to see that problem solving side of you because you hate problems, you avoid them altogether. So, like literally, you were created to address problems by creating systems and structures and whatever. You were created to confront problems, but a lot of times you run and you isolate yourself. You self isolate because you don't want to deal with the problems. You don't want to deal with it. You are masterful at solving problems when you're healed. I know some of you are probably saying, I can't relate to that. It's because you're probably not healed yet. Y'all, when I tell you I got a bad case of heartburn and I don't know why, but you are masterful at solving problems when you're healed. But the problem is you avoid problematic situations and people. You avoid them altogether, right? You can get around people and they go to argue and you like, hey, that's my cue. I love y'all. I pray that you have an amazing day. And you'll get up and leave when you actually had the master key to break through. This is what I talked about. You can go to a church, all those type of places. You have the key, but you would much rather self isolate because you don't want to tell people the truth. You don't want to say, hey, I think the problem is just, I think the issue is you keep wearing them really short skirts. And so I can understand her feeling some type of way. You don't want to say that kind of stuff. So you'll just much rather go home. You'll much rather go home. This is to say that you're needed. You are a problem solver. All right, where was I? Number 8, you are incredibly self-aware. Sometimes you can actually bind yourself up to a bunch of rules because you're incredibly self-aware. You overthink everything. You're very critical of yourself. Um, you take accountability when other people don't take it. You take accountability on behalf of other people. Maybe it was my fault. Now, I encourage accountability, but I also encourage sorting. And what that means is give people what belongs to them. Take what belongs to you and give people what belongs to them. Just sit back and say, hey, listen, I apologize for my role in this. And give people the opportunity to apologize for their role. And if they don't take any type of responsibility, you sit back and say, hey, listen, if we're going to continue in this relationship, I'm going to need you to make some adjustments too, right? Because you said this and you did that, and that was not okay. I took responsibility on my part, but I have yet to hear you take a responsibility. You're trying to make it look like I'm the person, like I'm the one to blame, rather than you just acknowledging that, hey, you did wrong as well. Amen. Rather than you acknowledging that you did wrong as well, you're trying to leave me with the responsibility. And what that tells me is that you're not going to make any type of adjustments. You're going to leave it to me to make the adjustments, which means that there will be no change on your end. And I can honestly tell you, this version of you is not my style. This version of you, I don't think I could tolerate. So I'm asking you to make some adjustments out of respect for me, and just like I'm making adjustments out of respect for you. But you're incredibly self-aware. Number 9, you tend to overthink things. We talked about that. You tend to overthink things. I can honestly say, as a person who was introverted, a lot of times because we like our alone time, we're always filling in the blanks and stuff like that. Every friend, every person I know that deals with introversion, I've had to have excessive talks with them. I think about some of my more introverted friends and conversations I've had to have with them over time. Hey, I felt like this. I felt like you was mad at me. And I'm like, no. Oh, I felt like this and I felt like that. And I'm like, no. And, I'm just like, because what introverts do is they fill in the blanks. They fill in the blanks. So a lot of times, because you hate small talk and because you really don't feel like being zapped or drained by a conversation, you would rather not have the conversation, and you'll just fill in the blanks on your own. So for example, if you and I are hanging out and I'm not that chatty as I usually am, an introvert, rather than saying, introvert will ask you, are you okay? If I say I'm good, you'll take it home and be like, her energy was off. And then you'll start filling in the blanks rather than saying, hey, can I talk to you? Can you tell me what was going on? Because I could tell you that something was off. You'll fill in the blanks and what have you, which is why we can typically have really strong relationships, but a lot of times we can end up losing relationships because of how we handle them, right? We're not always that great. Can't stop overthinking? Put it in books. That's what I've learned to do. I did a teaching. I taught at the school the other day, and I taught a lesson called "Turning Your Crazy into Content." Turning your crazy into content, and I talked about all of the thoughts that we have, how we have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of those thoughts are negative. If you have 60,000 thoughts, 80% of those thoughts, I think, is like 48,000 of your thoughts that are negative every single day. And a lot of it is overthinking, especially if you happen to be a creative person. And what you should do with that is turn it into content. Turn it into content, because you are aware of how silly some of the stuff sounds that plays in your head. You are aware of it, so you can turn it into content. Write a children's book. Start writing children's books, and then you can put that stuff in a children's book. So, for example, let's say that maybe you dealt with insecurity about a situation. You can create a character in a children's book and make her feel what you were feeling. And then you can have the other character speaking to it. And what you're going to do, you're able to dissect the issue through that. So you're being creative and you're solving a problem within yourself and you're helping others at the same time. So I did that, called Turn Your Crazy into Content. Rather than allowing that stuff to keep festering around you, because introverts, and I hate to say this, in many cases will oftentimes need more deliverance than extroverts, because you're always overthinking everything. There's too much information, and you hoard information. You hoard your thoughts, meaning you're not telling other people what you're thinking. You're not telling everybody what's going on in here, which causes you to start experiencing things like frustration, depression, rejection, isolation, insomnia, offense. It can cause you to experience a lot of things because there's too much. So information was not designed to just stay in. Information has to go out. But whenever you're self isolating, what you're doing is you're regurgitating that information. So every thought that's coming out comes back to you for you to ruminate it again. And you're not always coming up with the best theories. You're not always coming up with the truth. You're ruminating the same old stuff rather than saying, hey, I need to put this somewhere so somebody can tell me that's not good, that's not true. This is why accountability is important. Right. You have a tendency to hoard your thoughts. You will hold on to them and keep them in or what have you. And you can always tell as introverts, whatever, we're kind of hoarding thoughts because we be like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We start acting like that. And I have to say this. When you do this, and forgive me, y'all, like I said, I got a bad case of heartburn right now. But when you do that, a lot of times you can start running yourself crazy. You can start dealing with issues like paranoia. You can start dealing with different types of disorders and stuff like that because information was not designed to stay in. Information was designed to go out. Information was designed to go out. And that way you get clarity, you get understanding. But a lot of times we will hoard our thoughts. And you got to have people around you. You got to have therapists, wise counsel, but people around you that you can run your thoughts through, right? Because we all have our filters. We all have our filters. So I can run my thoughts through, a friend, right? I can run my thoughts and say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking. And if my friend is healed, if my friend is whole, when I run my thoughts through her, then she's going to filter through them and say, hey, that's not true. That's not good. Where'd you get that from? And so in that, what ends up happening is when it comes back to me, you see this filtering system. When it comes back to me, it comes back and I'm like, I didn't think about that. Spirits that have left Earth. If you're talking about humans, that's a deliverance. If you're not talking to humans, you're talking to demons. They are disguising themselves as humans, but those are demons. Those are demons. So I would say set up a session with Apostle Ivory Hopkins to go through deliverance. All right. Number 10, you are most creative when you're alone. You're most creative when you're alone. A lot of times, hear me, if you're an introvert, especially a creative introvert, you need your alone time. The enemy gets the creative introvert this way. He understands that if I have, like a lot of time, if I have somebody that you talk to every single day, you're gonna pour out your creativity, you're gonna pour out everything. You're gonna drain yourself every day. By the time you get around to the time where you should be creating, you're not gonna have the energy to do that. The enemy used to do that to me. I remember having a friendship, and it came out of high school, and it carried on for well over 20 years, where we talked on the phone every day for hours on end, regurgitating conversations every day. As that thing started coming to an end, I ended up meeting somebody else, and we talked on the phone every day for hours on end, every day. And I remember thinking to myself at some point, because it was more of me pouring. And I remember thinking to myself, why am I sitting here pouring into one individual? I can put this on YouTube. I can be teaching this stuff. I'm sitting here pouring revelation into her, and she's not taking it. And I told her that. I'm like, you're not taking it, because she was always asking questions. Not saying that, she was always asking me questions, which was fine. But I'm saying that to say, I found myself saying, this is stuff that you could be teaching. This is stuff that you could be helping other people with, because you're just kind of pouring out. And I just remember a lot of times I just be drained. I would be drained. And I realized that, hey, it's okay to, have people that you talk to and you're friends with and all that, but you don't want to do that every day. You don't want to do that every day. You need to use that for you need to use that for sorry guys. Let me just not get distracted. You need to use that for something else. Use that for something else. I guess I will speak to this. Saying Apostle Ivory is not free. Yeah, I get really passionate on that subject. That's why I had to kind of really reserve myself. Because yes, as Zelle said, Zelle Salvador has a map. I want the black body of Christ to get out of dishonor. I'm sorry. I need the black body of Christ to get out of this mindset that people are supposed to sit on the phone with you for hours and do free counseling for you. But whenever you go out and pay we got to get out of that. We got to get out of that. Even talking about going to, find a deliverance map, that's good and that's great. But do you know those leaders don't want you just barging into their church talking about take me through deliverance, and then you don't tithe there, you don't show up there, and you just come in there trying. Now, I'm not saying don't use the map, use the map, but I have to go there because that's I talk about this all the time. I say it's just one of the things that irks me. It makes me not want to. It makes it hard. I don't want to say not want to because I want to be used by God, but it's frustrating to me when it's the black body of Christ. It's not white people. They honor their pastors like crazy, and they never have to sit back because they understand it's one person. One person cannot. I cannot sit here and say, "Well, I'm going to do deliverance calls." And then everybody register, and then I get off the phone with you and talk to another person, and off the phone with you and talk to another person, and ain't nobody sowing seeds, ain't nobody doing nothing, and then I end up going broke and trying to figure out how to live, tapping myself out and zapping myself every single day. I am so over that mentality that it's not even funny. I am so over that mentality that it's not even funny because even even in the concept of hey, let's go into this church, let's go into that church. Ministers have talked about this. Pastors have talked about this. They don't want you just flooding into their church and you come up there and vomit all over the place. And want somebody to spend the hours at the altar while you shaking all over the place, then you want to get off the floor. You don't want to sow a seed, and you want to walk out. They don't see you again for the next 3 to 4 more until you need deliverance again. Until you need deliverance again. Apostle Ivory Hopkins is an amazing man of God, and I honor his time. And so, because he's doing one on one, just like you would pay a counselor to do one on one, most of the conversation is counseling. Most of the conversation is counseling. I am so over that mentality. Y'all, I'm over that mentality. I'm sorry. Right? He goes to the root, but it's in the black body of Christ that crabs in a bucket mentality. That it is this mentality that I'm supposed to come to you and you supposed to stop what you're doing, forget about your family, forget about everything, and sit on the phone with me and cast out demons that I even help you pick up. And I'm supposed to do one-on-one with you and talk for you for hours on end and listen to you cough and vomit all over the phone. And then I'm supposed to get off and you're gonna tell me God bless you. You won't get off the phone and tell me God bless you. And then if I have the audacity to say, hey, listen, just like you pay a counselor, you can pay me because you're using my time. I could be using this time to do some other stuff where I can make money. You're using my time. Hear me. That's right. Just like I could say, meanwhile, they got a whole boyfriend at home. They fought. Right. They go up in the stand, go pick up the demons all over the place, and then get mad at leaders. And they only do this to black pastors. They only do this to black pastors. They only do this to black pastors where they sit back and say, well, you're supposed to do this. Y'all fake, y'all all about money. How do you think they're supposed to eat? Do you know in churches, 50% of in black churches, 50% of people don't give? 50%. Everybody shows up to eat. Nobody wants to sow. Nobody wants to sow. Everybody wants to show up. It's that entitlement that is so freaking annoying to me that y'all. It's that dishonor that keeps black people down. Not all black people who learn to master honor succeed. You could not prove me wrong. You show me a black person who's master honoring God's people, and you will see them. You will see prosperity all over them. You will see blessings and peace all over them. But it's this mentality that you're supposed to do it for free, and you're supposed to be on the phone with me for hours on end, and that I ain't gonna pay no counselor because they cost too much money. And even though I'm charging you less, or they charging you less than a counselor, and they gonna counsel you and cast out your demons, counsel you and cast out your demons. And if you have the audacity to have a boundary, then there has to be. We gotta shame you. We gotta shame you because you won't sit back and do this for us. Your church should be casting out demons. I go to Embassy Church. We cast out demons there. They don't charge you to go to the altar. Go to your church and go to the altar. Okay? It's that simple. Well, they don't do it in my church. That's an indictment against your own church. I'm going to answer that question. No, I don't refer people to deliverance ministers. If you say I do deliverance, I don't refer people to you because I don't know you. I can't say, hey, people do this and do that. Even if you say I can do it on the weekends, if you ain't doing it, don't tell people that. If you've never walked a mile in nobody's shoes, that's annoying for anybody that's been doing it and know how draining it is and know how much time it takes. You can't even estimate how long deliverance takes. So that's annoying when people do that because you're speaking to a platform, which is what I tell my students: don't speak to a platform that you don't understand. But I want to answer this. That's so true. But some people really need help and don't have the finances. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it out, sis. Hear me. I love you, but I'm gonna call it out. Sister Tanya, I love you. Thank you. God bless you. Beautiful. Don't have the finances to give. Hence, this is why they need help. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call it what it is. It's a lie. It's a lie. Poverty is not the lack of finances, it's the misprioritization of things. Those same people will spend $300 for bundles, but won't pay $100 to a therapist. They got the money. They just don't want to spend it on their head. They got the money. They will spend it on all types of silly stuff. I grew up in poverty. I grew up around poverty. The government takes care. They got the money. They just don't want to spend it on that. And even if they don't have the money, they can go to a church and get it. It's free if you go to your own church. The poor you have with you always. Poorness is a mindset. It has nothing to do with your money. It has everything to do with a mindset. I'll say this and I'm going to move back in and I'm not going to try to speak to that. Because I can give you the truth, but you can only want it. You have to eat it. Poverty has nothing to do with money. The lack of money is just a fruit of poverty. Poverty has everything to do with dishonor. Poverty has everything to do with putting things in wrong order. I can help you break through and get a breakthrough. I can take people in poverty and help them get a breakthrough if I can get them to understand that stop throwing money at wigs and throw money at the people of God that's pouring into you. Stop throwing money. If I can get them, it has everything. The fruit of poverty is lack, but poverty is a mindset. It has everything to do with putting things low. It has everything to do with the misprioritization of revelation, not seeking God, idolizing things. It has everything to do with that. It has everything to do. And if there's a person that's on the right path and they still don't have any money, that's fine. They can go to their church. But no, I'm saying this, and I'm saying this, y'all. I'm saying this, and I'm saying this from love. I promise you, I'm saying this from a place of love. But I have a heart for God's people. It's frustrating because the sheep are killing the Bible. One of my pastor friends, he said, "It's not wolves in sheep's clothing. It's not wolves in shepherd's clothing. It's wolves in sheep's clothing. It's the sheep eating up the pastors. That's why the suicide rate for pastors is high. It's the sheep eating up the pastors, making all of those demands, and nobody wants to take accountability or responsibilities. Nobody wants to help out. You know how many people volunteer in church? You know the percentage of people that volunteer in church? You know, the percentage of people that volunteer in church is very low. Everybody that typically has something to say is usually not volunteering, probably not giving that much, but they have a whole lot of opinion for a platform they've never stood on. This is what's killing leaders because if we try to live by your responsibility or your expectation of us, we would kill ourselves. Because every day, if I did deliverance, I stop one-on-one deliverances because I don't want to deal with that kind of foolishness. I stop one-on-one. I do mass deliverances whenever I have the time. I'll do a mass deliverance, totally free. Come to it, that's great. But sometimes you need individualized attention. I stopped doing it because I really don't want to deal with the foolishness of it. And when I'm not talking about the deliverance, I'm talking about the mindsets. I don't want to deal with the mindsets. I don't want to deal with the mindset. I don't want to deal with people thinking I'm supposed to do 8 deliverance calls a day. And I'm supposed to lay in my bed and be zapped out and be trying to, and I got to go live in a shelter and try to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills because they think I'm supposed to cast out demons that they went out there and put out. Okay, I'm going to say this. Sister Jillian, thank you. God bless you. Beautiful. I'm going to say this. I'm going to go to the scriptures. I'm going to go to the scriptures. I'm going to end this real right now. I'm going to end this real quick and then I'm going to go back in here. Mark 16:17. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak in new tongues. If you're a believer, why can't you cast out your own demons? Miss Claire, have you ever cast out a demon? If not, go to the altar at your church. It's free there. If you asking people for one-on-one time, it ain't free. That's what y'all not getting. Not y'all. It's always just a small percentage of people who would kill pastors if they could. And they would come, they wouldn't even come to your funeral. I'm gonna read it again. Mark 16:17. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out demons, they shall speak with new tongue. Why you can't cast out your own demons? That's free. You want it for free? Go cast your own demons out. If you asking somebody to give you a free counseling session, because they got to counsel you first, you're asking people to give you a free counseling session. That's why you broke. It's because you don't know how to honor people. I'm telling you the truth. I can get you free if you want it, but I can't get you free if you're prideful. If that's a big problem, go cast your own stuff out, or go to your local churches. Go to your local church, go to the altar and say, I need deliverance. They do it for free. It's that simple. But when you ask for one-on-one, this is where the disconnect is. When you say, give me one-on-one, let me get on the phone with me for about an hour or two and cast my demons out. Why is that supposed to be for free? Jesus did mass deliverances. I do mass deliverances. Jesus walked into spaces. If you needed it, he cast your demons out, right? If you wanted it. Judas needed deliverance. Did Jesus take him through? Everybody that needs deliverance ain't ready for it. It's a mentality. Y'all, I'm going to say this. I'm going to get back into this lesson. I could help a person that wants to be helped. I ain't lying to you. And you hear passion in me is because I don't like what the enemy did to the black race. Not everybody, but I'm saying that slave mentality, this mentality of what's mine is yours. If you black or if you got it, I'm supposed to get it too. That type of mentality is what divides us. It creates such a disconnect. It creates such, right, in 5 hours. It could take a long time. And then the people want to give you a follow-up, and then they want to talk to you again. I think he came back. It's a whole lot. And people don't understand. You if you do that, you can't have a ministry because you will have like 10 people that you're responsible for. The objective, catch this, is to teach you how to cast your demons out of yourself. All right, I'm moving on. Where were we? We were talking about characteristics of introversion. My apologies for going down that. But like I said, you can cast your demons out of yourself. I'll tell you that should end the talk right there. Why you don't believe? Why you don't have faith to cast your own demons out? Why you trying to gaslight people into doing it for you? I don't understand that. I just don't understand that. And I think it's because I'm on the other side of that. But all right, let's move on. Characteristics of introversion. You are most creative when you're alone. I think we're on number 10. You are most creative when you're alone. It's not, if you ever want to break the curse, all curses start with dishonor. Every curse. Every curse starts with dishonor. If you ever want to break the curse of poverty, all you got to do is come out of dishonor. Coming out of it requires you to come out of pride, because Leviathan will always hold the person in pride. If you ever want to come out of that, if you ever want to break a generational curse, come out of dishonor. Pray this prayer, Lord, teach me to honor your people. I'm telling you right now, he'll change your mind. If you pray it, most people don't pray it. They just speak they just speak their opinion. They just speak their opinion, but they never stood on a platform. They don't know what that's like. And so they just speak their opinion or what have you. They're stiff neck and you can't say anything to them. They don't have ears to hear. They don't have ears to hear. But you are not creative. You are most creative when you're alone. You are most creative when you're alone. So I'm saying this to say you have to take time out to spend time. You have to take time out, especially when you have you can feel the anointing where God starts to want to use you to create something. As an introvert, you have to take the time out to just sit there and create. I can tell you, I go through my little bouts. Now I'm creative every day, all day, but I go through times where it's heavy on me. I can feel the anointing heavy. And it's times like that I have to self-isolate. It's times like that that I may not spend a lot of time on the phone. It's times like that when I have to be alone because I have to put the oil to the very thing that I'm working on because anything else can drain me. Anything else can drain me. All right. Number 11, most of your friends are close friends. Most introverts, most of your friends are close friends. You don't have too many people in your life that are distant friends. You don't have too many people in your life that are distant friends. And that's because when it comes, like I said, we hate small talk. So that means that typically, whenever we start befriending people, we bring them close. Most of the time, introverts, we're more likely to have people that we identify as close friends or besties. It is very rare that we have distant friends. We can have distant friends, but it's very rare. And that's because we don't do too much small talk, which means that we will open up and this is just the way that we exchange. So, this is one of the characteristics or one of the signs that you are an introvert. Most of the times, you will have close friends, people that you meet they will become close because you're not going to get engaged with small talk and stuff like that with them. For the most part, you're going to, talk intimately. And when I say intimately, I'm not talking about sex or anything like that. I'm talking about you're going to kind of share stuff like, hey, I did this and I did that. Or what have you, you'll kind of open up or what have you. You can feel bad behind it, but that's just one of the signs because you don't like small talk. Right? Small talk is like elevator music. Number 12, you typically nap when you get overstimulated. Sister Valor, thank you. God bless you, beautiful. God bless you. You typically nap when you get overstimulated. I said that I've talked about that before. What God does with me a lot of times when I've gotten overwhelmed or something like that. I always say, like, if I start dealing with excessive warfare, I can hear God in many cases where I'll feel zapped and I'll feel God saying, go to bed or go lay down, go lay down. And I always joke about it, but that's the way that I see it. God throws me to sleep. God throws me to sleep. And when God throws me to sleep, I'll typically wake up laughing because I probably got overstimulated or what have you. I got overstimulated. And overstimulation can be a bunch of ideas coming at one time, or it can be a bunch of warfare coming at one time. So I can have a ton of ideas coming at one time. And a lot of times when you're an introvert or creative introvert, you got all these ideas that are just kind of rushing through. And it can create a traffic stop in your mind. It can create back up in your mind or what have you. Then you get to that space where it just becomes, and you can't work on anything because now you're overwhelmed. Now you're overwhelmed. And so a lot of cases when that happens, you will find yourself going to bed. Number 13, you notice the details and everything. You notice the details and everything. That means that let's say, for example, if you go to an event, you're going to notice the wall, the details, the stains on the wall, the roach in the corner, the spider in the corner. You notice the details of everything because you're an overthinker and you're not always engaging in conversation. So I can be in a room full of crowded people, but I'm probably going to pick a corner. I'm probably going to pick a corner and I'm going to kind of look around, right? I'm just looking around. And it's not something that I'm looking for something. It's just a habit. It's just a habit because you're trying to find something to do with your brain in that moment. You're trying to find something to do with your brain in that moment. So you notice the details on everything or in everything. Number 11, it's hard for you to build relationships because people often think you're mean, shy, or don't want to be bothered. I would say fast, Sister Mary. I would say fast. It's hard for you to build relationships because people often think you're mean, shy, or don't want to be bothered. And it's because we can be as introverts, like I said, we don't like small talk. And so a lot of times some of the things that we say, I would say this, and this is just my opinion. I would say this. I think introverts are can be. I'm not gonna say always are, but I think that most introverts or many introverts can be some of the best friends that you can have. But you have to get through like this layer. There's like this thing you got to get through, right? Before, because a lot of times there's that insecurity. Um, I think about this girl that was going to my church or what have you. She was introverted. I was introverted. And a lot of people, when I first started off, I wasn't building too many relationships. And I came to find out later on, some people said I looked mean, but I was just, on posts or what have you. And I was just standing there, but some people thought I looked mean. And this girl, she comes over And she would always, it was this extroverted girl, she would always just bust my bubble. Always, she would just always penetrate my bubble. And we started building a relationship from there, because what ends up happening is, she wouldn't allow me to be in my bubble, if that makes sense. She wouldn't allow me. Another girl that was actually introverted, she ended up working near, kind of serving near me, and we ended up, just kind of talking. But in the beginning, she had her bubble. One thing about introverts, I can honestly say that a lot of times we have this one problem, that we have our bubbles and our worlds, and we kind of expect people to come into it, or what have you. And then we feel like, once you make me feel safe, I come into your world, and that's not always good. So we're not always relationally, what is the word I'm looking for? I guess relationally intelligent. Kendra, oh yeah, that sounds like ambivert. That's what they call that, ambivert. We're not always that great relationally, because we will have our bubbles and we'll overthink everything. So we don't want to come into your bubble. We don't want to come in your bubble and mess stuff up. We don't want to come in your bubble and do some weird stuff. So a lot of times we will kind of stay in our own personal bubbles, and we'll get frustrated. We'll stay in our bubbles and stuff like that. So when people come into our bubbles, then we start feeling safe and what have you, then we'll go into their bubbles. So extroverts are really masterful at popping the bubbles of introverts. This is my experience with it. Extroverts, like I said, when I was going, as I'm going to my church, I remember this girl, she would come up and she would just walk up to me, "What you doing?" And she just kept on coming into my bubble. All right. She just kept coming into my bubble until I started, kind of learning to kind of come out of it a little bit more, or what have you. But we tend to make instant friends with extroverts that will dare to come into our bubble, because a lot of times we'll put on this face that keeps people away from us. But we will make instant friends with some people, or over the time we'll make friends. But when it comes down to other introverts, it is hard for two introverts to develop friendship. It is hard. It is a difficult thing. We can make friendships with other introverts, but it's hard because they want you to come into their world. You want them to come into your world. So both people, we don't go into each other's world that way. It takes time. Most of the times, if you're going to come into each other's world, you're going to have to work close together. There's going to have to be something that causes you to rub up against each other. There's going to have to be, depends on their energy, right? It is going to have to be something that makes you rub up against each other. Other than that, you're not going to leave your bubble to go into somebody else's bubble. They're not going to leave their bubble to come into your bubble if you're both introverts. And sometimes you may, or what have you. Sometimes you may not, but it depends. It depends. He's an ADHD. I talk a lot, but that's usually, honestly, I would say, if you're an overthinker and you are an excessive talker, I dare to say this. I believe that, one, you're a revelator, and two, you're an author. You have a scribe's anointing. You should be writing. You should be writing. You should be teaching. You have the grace of teaching. You have the grace of teaching. Okay, last one for this list. Number 15, your relationships often move faster than they should, because it's hard for you to have distant partners. I talked about this, but I think I was talking about it more on the platonic end, but we can talk about it on the romantic end. One issue with introverts is that a lot of times you will build relationships with, like, say, with the opposite sex, and sometimes it can move faster. I can honestly say this: you genuinely have to intentionally slow your relationship down, intentionally, because you don't like small talk. And any healthy relationship, I hate to say it, starts with small talk. It starts with you getting, because a lot of times we don't want to have surface level conversations. I really don't want to talk about traffic. And we don't want to have surface level conversations. We like to go into the deep, but you shouldn't be going into the deep with everybody, right? You shouldn't be going into the deep with everybody. Like, when you start talking about romantic relationships, you should be going in layers. It should start at the surface. And then you're supposed to it's like a submarine, right? You can't just take a submarine and go down and you implode. So you're supposed to slowly go down to each layer. What you'll find is that you'll get to a certain layer and say, this ain't it. This dude ain't healed. He ain't healthy. He's not spiritually in tune with God, or what have you. And then you'll know the surface. You'll know that, hey, I can't go any further with this guy. But a lot of times when it comes down to introverts, our problem is, because we hate small talk, we go straight into the deep. And so one thing I can tell you, I'm going to give you a little revelation, a little insight. You need to create a speed limit for yourself. And that speed limit is called prayer. This is what I've learned. I'm telling you right now, you have to have a speed limit called prayer. God, is this somebody that I need to entertain? God, if this is not the person for me, Father, send him out of my life. If he's supposed to be in my life, Father, help him to operate in the role that he's supposed to operate in. Help me. And you have to actually guard yourself. You have to guard your heart. You got to make sure that you can't be with somebody who hooks a chain to you and starts pulling you. You're not letting me trust you. You're not letting me love you. You literally have to sit back and say, chill, 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 because you're moving too fast. One thing, because we don't like small talk when it comes down to romantic relationships, sometimes we can go straight into the deep. I can tell you this right now. I can give you a challenge right now just to prove it. For those of you who are single, I want you to imagine whatever dude you got a crush on, or whatever dude you feel like had a crush on you, or what have you, or whatever dude you feel like you're going to marry, or your ideal dude. I want you to imagine dating him. Just real quick. I want you to imagine your life with him. What are you seeing? What are you seeing? A lot of times you will see him integrating into your life. And he's not supposed to be integrating into your life when you don't know him. He's not supposed to be integrating into your life. Maybe you may see him, if you're single, him coming to your house to carry the big giant bags in the house. All the heavy stuff. Now he finally here, he can go take care of all this stuff. I ain't got to man up no more because he can come do all of that stuff. That's moving too fast. That's moving too fast. Yeah, we can all do small talk, but we're just not fond of it. We're just not fond of it. If I'm on the phone with somebody and we're doing small talk, we're probably going to get off the phone because it's going to get awkward. When with introverts, small talk, it can get really awkward. We'll start saying stuff, we'll get confused, or we'll start saying stuff that don't make sense. We may not understand what you're saying, but we're not going to tell you that we don't understand what you're saying because we don't want you to think that we weren't listening when we were listening, but you just was talking funny or what have you. I told you I had met a guy recently, and that's what happened. He started talking, and I didn't understand what he was saying. It was surface, of course, but he was talking. I didn't understand what he's saying, so I was just trying to play along like I understood it because I didn't feel like it was relevant, what have you. And he mentioned pajamas, and that's how it slid by me, and I was like, huh? I was like, huh? So that's the thing. We don't like small talk, but we gotta have it. We have to have it. We have to master it when it comes down to our romantic relationships. All right, y'all ready? Now we're gonna get into the heart of the lesson. Y'all pray for this heartburn to go away. I want to talk about 7 types of introverts. 7 types of introverts. You know what? I feel like I've already talked about these, but most of them in here, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. The prophetic introvert, we've already talked about that. That's the introvert. That's like David. David would occasionally have to isolate himself because of the call, because he was running from Saul. Sister Mary, you're beautiful. Thank you, sis. God bless you. Because he was running from Saul. But the prophetic introvert, this is the person that is wired to be sensitive. This is the person that whenever you go into places, you can experience people's emotions, or what have you. The prophetic introvert. The number 2, the seasonal introvert. Again, we talked about that. This is the introvert who has an assignment. Okay, assignment based. I'm trying to read what I wrote down. This is the introvert who has an assignment. This is somebody who's probably an ambivert or an extrovert, but they become ambiverted during certain seasons because they have an assignment that requires them to self-isolate. Number 3, the occasional introvert. The occasional introvert, which is the ambivert. Ambiverts are introverts at times, and there are extroverts at other times, but it has nothing to do with seasonal or assignments. It just has everything to do with, just how they're feeling. It has everything to do with mood, opportunity, and stuff like that. Number 4, the traumatized extrovert. The traumatized extrovert or ambivert. This person is not really an introvert, but they became an introvert because of trauma. They became an introvert because of trauma. Number 5, we didn't talk about this one. The running introvert. Jonah, where you at? The runner. This is the one you got to call on your life. You know that God has called you to do great and marvelous things. He even gives you insight, visions, dreams, all of this stuff about what he wants to do in and through you. You can feel it. You feel called to greatness, but you run from it because you really don't want the responsibility. You really don't want to deal with the stuff that comes with it. And realistically speaking, you heard me talking about the whole deliverance thing or what have you. You run from that kind of stuff because you deal with that kind of stuff in ministry, right? You deal with that kind of stuff in ministry, you deal with that kind of stuff in business. So you run from it because you're like, I don't feel like dealing with that stuff. I don't feel like going through that stuff. And so you become a Jonah of sorts. You become a Jonah of sorts. You start sitting back and you're running. And then many times, let me say this, the running introvert, what you have a tendency to do is either you will make it up in your mind that you're not going to do what God told you to do, or you'll procrastinate. Can I call procrastination what it is? And you still love me in the morning. It's you trying to gaslight God. Is you trying to gaslight God? Is you trying to tell God, I'm going to do it? It's like having a man at home and you keep asking him to go fix that shelf in the bathroom, and keeps saying to you he gonna do it. A week passed by and you notice that the shelf is still hanging on the hinges, and you say, babe, when you gonna do something about this shelf? And he said, babe, why you keep getting on my nerve? I told you I'm gonna do it. A month go by and that thing's still hanging on the hinges, and then eventually you get tired and you go hang it up yourself, or you go hire somebody. You end up going hire somebody. I tell this story, and the story was funny, but this is when I was married, and we had got our first house, and the grass had started growing in the yard. It not only started growing, that grass had got tall. And I'm constantly telling this dude, go cut the grass. Because he didn't want to hire nobody. He was like, I'm paying somebody to cut the grass. I said, go cut the grass. He would make every excuse. We had a Siberian Husky, right? The Siberian Husky, it got to the point you couldn't even see him no more. That's how tall the grass got. You would just see the grass moving, and then he parked the grass. And I'm like, this is embarrassing. I was mad. I was like, when you gonna cut the grass? He make every excuse in the world. I'm gonna get to it. Stop trying to control me. I'm not trying to control you. It's just that I can't walk off into the grass and still see my knees. Like the grass looks horrible. So what ended up happening was one day I got frustrated. One day I was over it. I happened to go outside, and I don't want to say this man was a crackhead, but I'm pretty sure he was. I saw this man walking down the street, and I've never seen this man before in my life. This was a pretty decent neighborhood. He had a lawnmower, and he was just dragging it behind him. Right? He looked rough around the edges and stuff like that. I said, "Excuse me, you cut grass?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "How much would you charge to cut my grass?" He said, $15. I said, "Okay, come on." He started cutting my grass. I already knew it was gonna be a fight that night, but I didn't care because I was tired. I was tired of parting the Red Sea when I went outside. I was tired of not being able to see. I was tired of being embarrassed. Okay, because nobody wants to be that neighbor whose grass is growing like that. So I ended up hiring this dude. My ex pulls up at home. Thankfully, the guy wasn't no looker, or you can tell that he was either probably homeless on drugs or something like that. So he didn't have any insecurity thinking that was my dude or something like that. But he came out, he was like, "Who is that man out there cutting the grass?" I said, "I don't know him." I stopped him while he was walking. "I told you," I say, "No, you kept putting it off. You kept putting it off." So this is to say to the brothers in Christ, if you say you're gonna do something, do it. Okay, do it. Cause we will hire somebody on your tail. We will hire somebody. I ended up hiring that dude. It was a funny event because I knew we were gonna fight, but I was over it. I was over it. I was over looking out there. I knew it was gonna get taller and taller and taller, and he wasn't gonna do nothing about it. And I said, forget it. Let me get somebody else out here to cut this grass. But the running introvert, a lot of you are that. A lot of you are that. Because get this, you don't want responsibility. You don't want responsibility, and a lot of you are not admitting to it. But God sees you. I love you. But you don't want responsibility and you don't want accountability. You don't want to deal with none of that. But you're running from the call that's on your life, and you keep telling God that you'll get around to it. But God knows that you're not going to get around to it. You're like that man that keeps saying it. And that's why God has to send somebody to replace you. He has to send somebody else to do this assignment he gave you. God be elevating me so high I'm gonna be in heaven in a minute. If he keep unlocking these levels, man, I'm telling you, God. When you say yes to God, it's a beautiful thing. It is a scary thing at the same time. Sister Cherie, you're beautiful. Thank you, sis. God bless you. It is a beautiful thing and a scary thing at the same time. It's a beautiful thing and a scary thing at the same time, but always get accountability. One thing I've learned, I made a promise to God that I'm going to give him my continued yes. Oh, what have you? No matter how hard it hurts, and even when he started calling me deeper, I did give him a weight, but I just didn't say it out loud. I just said it with my actions at one point, and I had to be accountable with that because I realized that. And I'm gonna be transparent on here. I'm gonna be transparent. I honestly didn't want to go any further because I really didn't want to deal with God's people. I just didn't want to deal with that. A lot of the stuff that comes with ministry, I understand what it means to die to yourself and what have you, because I was like, good God. So it's beautiful, it's frustrating, it's a lot of different things at one given time. It's a lot of different things at one given time. But I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. But the running introvert, yeah, it's beautiful and scary. The running introvert. Number 6, the creative introvert. The creative introvert. This is the one, this is the overthinker. This, you got so many ideas in your head. It's just so much that's just running through your head at any given time. You come up with solutions. You come up with things that you could market, things that you can produce, but for whatever reason, especially in the Black community, you may be afraid of money, afraid of success, afraid of all of it. Sister Deidre, I'll get to this shortly. You may be you're afraid. A lot of times we fear our own potential. When I'm saying fear, I'm talking about people in general. Prophetic introverts. Sometimes, especially if you haven't been around a lot of successful people in your life, if you come from a family where they ridicule the successful auntie and they say she thinks she all that, you never want to become that person. You never want to become that person. And so what ends up happening is you find yourself hiding. You find yourself not doing so. God gives you ideas every single day. Who am I talking to? Every day you have an invention or something comes in your mind, a book idea, something, but you ain't doing nothing with it. You ain't doing nothing with that revelation. God said, write the vision and make it plain. Use this on your phone. You got a notes app on your phone. Use your phone. Sit down and write the stuff down that God has told you. Write it down. Go ahead and start getting it out. You're not doing that because you're afraid of what's on the other side of being used by God. You're afraid of what that looks like. And I'm going to tell you, it's like driving on a road, right? You don't, and it's unfamiliar to you, and it's a road where everybody else is used to going. It's like a 2-lane road, and it's narrow, and everybody else is used to going 55 and 60 miles per hour on that road. So people are tailgating you, but you're not familiar with it. It's got all these sharp curves, and so you're driving slow, and people behind you tailgating you, and they're driving recklessly because they're frustrated with you. That's what it feels like, because there's so many people who feel like they already know, some people that don't know but they think they know, all of that stuff. And it's so many people around you, but you want to take your time and try to, figure out ministry and how it goes. And I'm gonna tell you something: if you're behind, God will accelerate you, and it can be incredibly scary. I was behind, incredibly behind. And so since I started writing books 14 years ago. 2009. Yeah, I started writing books 14 years ago. I'm 60 plus books in. The average person most people average one book a year or one book every 2 to 3 years. I average several books a year. Why? God, because God is accelerating. Because God, I'm trying to tell you right now, God is trying to get out of me what He put in me. He's saying, none of that's going away. And so now He's having to catch me up, and just constantly giving birth, constantly giving birth. But the creative introvert, you got a lot going on in your mind. You need to be creating. This is what keeps you sane. You need to be creating. You end up, tell me if this is you. Let's say, for example, and this is to the single. You come across a man, you can put a relationship together in your head. A whole relationship. You can sit there and think to yourself about what a relationship will look like with him. All that. You're incredibly creative. And what the enemy does with your creativity, and what you do with your creativity, is that you like to create scenarios and entertain yourself in your head. You like to create scenarios. You like to entertain yourself. I say, turn your crazy into content. Turn your crazy into content. I told the story about how I went to, I think it was Olive Garden. It was Chili's or Olive Garden. I don't know why I think it was Olive Garden. Back some years ago, saw this man sit on the bench. I could tell he was waiting on somebody, and my creativity got in because he was handsome, right? My creativity got entangled up in there because I was doing one of my daddy-daughter dates with the Lord. and my creativity got up in there. So my creativity, I'm going in, my creativity started showing me like, what if, like, his date, because I could tell he was frustrated with having, what if his date doesn't show? And then he ends up in line behind me or something like that. And he hears me saying table for one, and he say table for one, and they put our tables near each other, and we end up chatting it up. Next thing you know, we end up at each other's table. He come over to my table, we start talking and what have you. And then it turns out to be a love connection. And our story ends up being that we met. He got stood up. I was just out doing my daddy-daughter date with God and obeying the Lord. That's a movie. That's why I created a movie. I've learned to turn all of that into content. If I took that in, I could easily, I was talking to a sister in Christ about that the other day. I could easily be crazy because I can sit there and I can put it in my head that that's my man of God. I can put that in my head, or I can tell myself the truth. This is your creativity. Have fun with it. You can right now. I'm telling you right now, because creatives often deal with depression. You can alleviate your depression and a lot of issues that you suffer mentally by simply playing with your creativity. Play with your cray cray. It's okay. You got too many thoughts going in your head. You need a filter. You need to relieve yourself, right? Some of that stuff need to go out. So I've learned I can turn around, I can turn it into a book. I can turn that into a book. I can create a book. I can create a character. I have a character called um Magdalene, and another character, we'll call him Jason. And I can put them two together, and I can sit back and I can give Magdalene a part of my testimony. And I can say, Magdalene walked into the Olive Garden parking lot. She saw this guy, handsome. Then I can give you a description of him: tall, dark, bald head. He had a scarf around his neck. I can give you a description of him. I can make him sound so, oh, so delicious, right? And what have you. And he sat there. Magdalene, she could tell this or what have you. They get into the restaurant, and I can create a whole love story around that. And I could either take that and I can formulate that in my mind and pretend that that's my story and wish it was my story, or I can give that story to somebody else in the form of content. You play with it. Play with the cray cray. Play with it. Have fun with it. Go attach it to somebody else. Create a character from it. And then, y'all, it'll bless your whole wild life. I'm telling you right now, it'll bless your whole wild life. All right, last one. Number 7, developmentally delayed. Developmentally delayed introvert. That's the immature introvert. Developmentally delayed introvert. This is the introvert that does not heal, does not grow, and stays in isolation. Won't come out of isolation because they're not getting any new revelation or information in. And they're just incredibly immature. They're incredibly immature. Their outlook on the world is not always great. And so even though they have a call on their lives, they don't necessarily actualize their call on their lives because of the delay. Some of them, if they get healed, they get matured. If they pursue God, they will grow out of it, but others don't grow out of it. All right. Let me give you 5 facts. Yeah, 5 facts. Number 1, creative introverts hide because they don't want responsibility. I already talked about that. I'm trying to convict you. I'm trying to get you to come out of hiding, come out of the audience, and start volunteering. Hear me when I tell you, we need you out here in these ministry streets, okay? I know you may not necessarily feel called, ready for ministry or whatever it is that God told you to do, but the earth needs you. We need you. We need you because we're short staffed. Because it's the majority of people who said yes. It's a small number of people who said yes, and there's a great number of people who haven't said yes. Some people are still saying later on, when I'm better, when I'm ready, or what have you. But you have a large number of people who said no or not yet, and you have a small percentage of people who said yes. And so there's a great demand that's placed on leaders, the leaders that have said when I say it's a great demand that's placed on us, it is a heavy demand that's placed on us. But creative introverts hide because they don't want responsibility. Don't want responsibility. You're going to have to get the responsibility. All right, number 2, some people are introverted, but they are not some people are introverted, but they are not introverts. They are just fossilized in a season. Did y'all hear that? Some people are introverted, but they are not introverts. They are just fossilized in a season. Maybe you had a season where you were introverted because you had an assignment. But because you didn't do what you were told to do, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, you had a Jonah moment. And in that Jonah moment, you found yourself in the mouth of the great whale, and that is Jezebel. You found yourself in the mouth of the great whale, that is Leviathan. You found yourself in that. And so you end up isolated by default because you didn't do what God told you to do. So now you're fossilized, which means you're kind of stuck in a space, and many times it can be trauma that keeps you there. Many times it can be comfort that keeps you there. But for whatever reason, you have fossilized, right? You're just kind of sitting there decaying in the mouth of the whale. You're sitting there decaying. And hear me when I tell you, I'm going to tell you how you know if you're fossilized, because you're still waiting on something to happen. You don't necessarily know what it is, but you're waiting on something. You're waiting on something. You don't know what it is. Right, Elijah, perfect example. When he ran in the cave from Jezebel, rather than doing what God told him to do, he ran in the cave from Jezebel. But you are fossilized in that moment. That means that you have been delayed. You kind of sat there. A lot of prophets and prophetic people get stuck in those spaces. Whereas God will tell you to write a book, or God will tell you to accomplish this feat or accomplish that feat, to go do this. And rather than doing that, you will allow yourself to be distracted. Hear me when I say this. When you have a call in your life, the enemy will throw people at you to stop you from doing what God called you to do. Typically, it's going to be a romantic interest. It's going to be a romantic interest. The enemy will throw people at you. And most of the time when he throw people at you, those people are going to be clingy, needy, demanding. They're going to have all these different things that they're going to want from you. And so consequently, you'll find yourself, what you were supposed to be given to your assignment, you'll give it to those people. What you were supposed to give to your assignment, you will give to those people. And that typically ends with you being fossilized or stuck in that season, because every season is a step. So you have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Until you complete the step that you're supposed to complete, you're fossilized or you're stuck in that season. Until you do what God told you to do, you are stuck in that season. I'm going to give y'all a little bit of insight. True story of my life. When I go back and do stuff God told me to do, I almost instantly get breakthrough somewhere. When I go back and do something God told me to do, whether it be small in my head or major, there's usually something that I can tell, like there's a flow that starts happening. I recently obeyed God, and this project that I've been, contemplating and working on, and what have you, God released me. Like I felt this release, like God was like, okay, now you can go do that. Now you can go do that. So what you'll find, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of insight, and I'm telling you, this is invaluable information I'm giving you. I use the notes feature on my phone. Take the notes feature on your phone. Write a list of things that you were supposed to do. You can write it on a piece of paper. I like to use the notes feature on my phone because I'm carrying this around with me everywhere, and I got a lot of paper in my house, so I can get lost. Use the notes feature on your phone and write down some things that God told you to do. Whether that be write a book, apologize to somebody, get back into church, volunteer at your church, whatever it is that God told you to do, just go start doing it. Now, hear me when I say this. When the enemy sees you obeying God, he's going to try to fight you. He's going to try to traumatize you, and he's going to try to get you to feel, or you to make the confession of, well, maybe it's not, I'm not ready for that yet. I'll get back to it, but I'm just going through some stuff at this time. The way you stop going through is you get to what God told you to do. The Bible says it this way, James 4:7, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So whenever you find yourself in warfare, whenever you find yourself going through a season, rather than sitting there waiting on the warfare to lift, when it's not, you're just going to adjust to it. You're supposed to make it stop. You're supposed to make it stop. How do I make it stop? Obey God. In many cases, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Obey God. So you go out here and okay, God told me to start this business. God told me to get therapy. God told me to do this. Go do everything. Stop putting it off. Write a list of all the things God told you to do and put a check mark by it every time you finish something. That's going to encourage you to keep going. And what you're going to do, you're going to start seeing breakthrough in your mind. So that means new thoughts are going to start flowing in. You're going to find your confidence growing. And then you're going to start seeing breakthrough in your relationships. Breakthrough can look like some people falling away, and it can look like new people coming in, but you're going to start seeing breakthrough. You'll start seeing breakthrough in your finances. It may look like a job closing this door, but a bigger and greater job or bigger and greater opportunity opening up. You may start seeing breakthrough in your love life. So all of a sudden you meet somebody. So whenever you begin to obey God, every time you obey God, then you find yourself on the next step. So if you are fossilized in a season, if you feel like you've been dealing with the spirit of delay, if you feel like that there are things that God has for you that He's promised you, but you can't seem to get through it, you are still stuck on a step. Did you catch that? You're still stuck on a step. So if I want to get off of that step, if I want to get out of step one, if I want to get on step three, I got to do what God told me to do on step one and step two. I got to do it. And I got to do it with the right spirit. Because if you do it with an attitude, God won't receive it because it's all an offering. Keep doing, just do what God told you to do. And this is how you come out of the false state. This is how you come out of the false state. Okay, number 3. Satan takes down more prophetic introverts than God gets to use. Satan takes down more prophetic introverts than God gets to use. You say how? He throws the narcissist, aka Jezebel, at you. He gives you a lot of unrealistic expectations, which leads to a bunch of unnecessary offense. And what he does is he encourages you using fear and insecurity that you're not ready yet, so that you can keep telling God not yet, and you keep procrastinating. And before you know it, you look up and 10 years has passed. 10 years has passed. You're like, where's the time going? Before you look up, that kid of yours that was 3 years old is now 23. Before you know it, you look up and you had all these things, because life goes just that fast. But you had all these things that you planned, all these things that you wanted to do. They never got actualized. You end up looking on your computer and you got a bunch of books that you started, but you never finished. Oh, yes, attitude matters. Attitude shows understanding. God said, above all that getting, get understanding. When you understand what that God using you is a beautiful thing, you do it cheerfully. This is why He said He loves a cheerful giver. But when you don't understand, it's kind of like for us. It's, imagine you have a kid, and your kid goes and gets something for you for Father's Day, and he comes, but he only did it because he didn't want to hear your mouth, or what have you. And he comes up to you and he's like, "Happy Father's Day." He does, "Happy Father's Day." You get it? Thank you. He walk off. You're not going to receive it. You won't receive it well. You're like, "Thank you." Now come back here. What's going on with you? What's going on with you? No, I mean, I'm just saying. I had to spend my last. What you gonna do? 9 times out of 10, take it back to the store. Take it back to the store. I don't even want it. Take it back to the store. I don't even want it. Because right then and there, he didn't give it to you in the right spirit. So it makes you not want it. It could be a cologne that you always wanted. This me using this bottle as an example. It could be something that you always wanted. And you're sitting there and you're like, man, I always wanted this. And he like, it cost me $60. Hey, take that back. Go get your $60. Nah, man, nah, man, nothing. Go take it back. Because if you don't take it back, I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna give you your money back. Matter of fact, let me cash app you right quick. You see that? So God is the same way. Whenever we do, He said, God loves a cheerful giver. He loves it when we come and we're like, just think about the parable of the talents. You had one who had 5 talents, one who had 2, who had one. The one who had 5, when the Lord came back, attitude mattered. He said, Lord, you know what? I went to the market, I took the 5 talents and I've doubled them. Look, here's what you gave me plus some. He was jovial, he was excited. And the Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter now into the joy of the Lord. Enter now into the joy of the Lord. Then he turns around, the other one comes that had 2. Same thing. Lord, you gave me 2. I did this. Look, I doubled it. He says, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter now into the joy of the Lord. Then the unfaithful one comes and he says, here, this is what you a man that you sow where you haven't reaped, and you reap where you haven't sown. So I buried your talent. Now you have what is on you. Not only did he have the wrong heart toward his leader, he didn't even go out there and try to increase or be a blessing to the leader. He wanted to bless him. So consequently, his master took the talent from him and cast him in the outer darkness and gave the talent to the faithful servant. Gave the talent to the faithful servant. So one thing about it is, this is a trick, guys. This is a blessing. Anytime you give, when you go to church this Sunday, you give a seed, celebrate it. Celebrate it. Don't allow your thoughts to go into, oh, how am I gonna pay this bill? or what have you, go straight into instant celebration. Start saying, Lord, I thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you. God is like this. When he sees you cheering, it makes him want to give you more. It's very similar. If your son came up and he says, hey, Dad, I got this for you. And you see his excitement, you want his excitement. His excitement is more valuable to you than what he bought for you. And what have you like, yeah, I got you like, oh, thank you. He like, yeah, and he got his camera on you. You like it, Daddy? That excites you. And it makes you want to give to him. It makes you want to give him more money. It makes you want to do greater things for him because he had the right response. So if you give him something, he has the right response. It makes you want to give him more. It makes you want to give him more. All right. So we were talking about Satan takes down more prophetic introverts than God gets to use. Most prophet and prophetic people will never be used by God, especially at the level that God called them to, because Jezebel takes down most of them, and that's the narcissist. Um, Running from responsibility will always land you in the lap of Jezebel because it is a form of idolatry. It is a form of idolatry. Another thing, I preach heavily on it because I'm passionate about it, and this is not something that I was taught. You know, my pastor teaches on honor majorly, and I thank God for him. He's an amazing. I got amazing leaders. I'm gonna say that. But even before I came to the church, the Lord started dealing with me when I was in isolation about honor. Like he started preaching to me heavy about honor, and I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now. Like God was dealing with me, so I never had anybody to cultivate me in that area before God did. God started cultivating me in the concept of honor, and when God started, he started doing that. He was preparing me for leadership, and I didn't know what he was doing, but he was preparing. He was accelerating me, but he was preparing me for leadership. Um, but the reason he did that, catch this, and I'm being honest with you, dishonor takes down more prophets and prophetic people than anything. It is when you don't want to know or you don't want to understand. It is pride, Leviathan. It that takes down more people than anything because I've had conversations with people, right? I've had conversations with friends. I've had conversations with people, and I'll say, "Hey, this is right." For example, we could talk about sexual morality, immorality, and all this other stuff, and they say, "Well, I believe personally, I believe." And I say, "I hear what you're saying, but what does your Bible say?" But people, they probably took. Okay, how about this? Go pray about it. Well, I gotta pray about it. That's pride. So right then and there, they've already made up their mind. Right then and there, they don't care what God say. They've already locked themselves in. God can't use a vessel that refuses to hear from Him. I'm gonna say that again. I'm gonna say it out loud. I'm gonna say it with my chest. God cannot use a vessel who already knows. If you already know, because you have to empty yourself out so God can fill you up. And anybody that God uses at a high level will tell you that God will change your beliefs. He will empty you out of all of that stuff, change your mind, and he'll have you going back and licking up and just getting rid of your old ideology or what have you. And you'll be shocked because you'll be like, there was a point in time where I used to preach this. There was a point in time I used to say that. God will change your mind. If you're experiencing a creative decline, there is a possibility that God gave you a talent and you didn't use it. And so he takes the talent from the unfaithful servant and gives it to the faithful servant. And so you will have to repent and then get back into whatever it is that God ask God for the talent back, make a commitment to him, make a sacrifice, and get back into doing what God told you to do. All right. Excuse me. Satan takes down more prophetic introverts than God gets to use. And number 4, introverts often deal with depression. Introverts often deal with depression. Introverts deal with depression. There are different types of depression. I don't want to go into the levels and layers of depression, but all depression isn't the same. Sometimes it's the presence of purpose, but the absence of action. Sometimes it's you not spending enough time with God. Other times it's not necessarily depression, it's you feeling the emotions of other people. So there are different types of depressions that you can feel. And you have to be able to identify them. And if you can't identify them, this is the purpose of wise counsel. The Bible says there is safety in a multitude of counselors. There is safety in a multitude of counselors, but introverts often deal with depression. Now, a lot of times, if you're dealing with pride, you're not trying to get help with your depression. You're just trying to figure it out, and you kind of made up your mind that you've gotten through it before. But anytime you see something that's a recurring issue, it's a stronghold. So it has to be broken. If it's not broken, what you've done is made peace with the fact that this is going to be an issue in your life. Or what have you made peace with the fact that it's going to be an issue in your life, but it can be broken. You can learn to First, it can be cast out if it's a demon, right? But it can be broken if it's a stronghold. It can be broken or what have you. So you have to have somebody to help you to understand what you're feeling. For example, if it happens to be that you're feeling the emotions of other people, then what will break it where it doesn't become a burden to you, it becomes a burden for intercession, but not necessarily a burden called depression, is when you start to intercede. When you start to intercede. But if you don't know what it is and it's a burden, what can end up happening is you can misinterpret the burden. You can sit back and it can actually even become demonic at times, because the enemy will come in and see you being overwhelmed or what have you. But there are different types of depression. You need to be able to determine what type of depression you're experiencing. Number 5, studies show, and we're going to get to some solutions and we're going to get out of here. Studies show that extroverted people outlive introverted people. Studies show, and this is something we got on the internet. Studies show that extroverted people outlive introverted people. You know why I believe that is? Self-isolation. You run. A lot of times you run from your assignment. I believe that you will function and live a long life if you just say yes to God. If you stop trying to preserve how you feel, if you stop sitting back and making, okay, Jesus said it this way: those who lose their lives will find it, but those who find their lives will lose it. Those who love their lives will lose it. So one of the things that you have to do is, if you want to live, you have to give up your life. That means that, sure, I can be creative in the world. I can go out here and I can live life the way I want to live life, which we all want, right? I can go live life the way I want to live. I can go do things I want to do. But that wouldn't be beneficial to me because there's too much in me. And what's in me could take me out if I'm not getting it out. So I have an assignment. And this is what I believe kills so many introverts prematurely, is that if you're not getting that stuff out, especially in a healthy environment, in a healthy way, if you're not getting that stuff out, you don't have accountability, that stuff can cause like congestion. It can cause physical issues, not just spiritual, but it can cause physical issues. So I didn't say that to make you scared. I said it so that you would be informed, so that you can sit back and say, "Hey, listen, I do, as a person, I want to make sure that I get out everything that God has put in me." I want you to take this imagination. I want you to see yourself as a vase. A vase. Everybody's a vase. Every vase or vase, whatever you want to call it, every vase doesn't have the same size. And every vase may not have the same content. So I don't necessarily want to say a vase, a treasure chest. Every treasure chest is not the same. Every treasure chest is not valued the same. Some treasure chests are more valuable than others. Now, in this, I'm not saying you're more valuable than another human being. What I am saying is what God put in you is far more extravagant than what He's put in other people. God wants everything He put on you. Before you came to earth, there was an assignment put on you. God wants everything. Now, the world will make you insecure. The world will make you chase healing. You'll find yourself running in circles trying to get healing. This is the deception of the enemy, is that you keep going out here getting hurt. Then you keep looking for healing. You keep trying to fix yourself. And in the process of you trying to fix yourself, you get hurt again. And you keep saying, I'm gonna let God use me. I'm just not ready yet. But you're running in this circle. You're running in this circle, and that circle, what you don't realize, is called a cycle. It's also called a stronghold. It will never end. The enemy will never let you come off of that Ferris wheel. He will never let you come off of that hamster wheel. He will keep you going in circles again and again and again, promising to let you off and saying you almost there. Satan. Satan's favorite word is it's gonna happen soon. You're almost there. He will make you think that sin is going to produce something for you, that you're going to have some type of breakthrough, that something good is going to happen in your life, but you just got to stay on this Ferris wheel. You got to stay on the Ferris wheel of isolation. You got to stay on the Ferris wheel of procrastination. You got to stay on the Ferris wheel of whatever it is that you're doing. You got to stay on this Ferris wheel of just doing the same old thing and expect a different result. He will keep lying to you until he burns you all the way out. Until he burns you all the way out. And like I said, you wake up one day, you look around, Have you spent 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, 45 years on that Ferris wheel making promises to yourself? And I'm gonna tell you, and this is impartation moment. I'm gonna get to this. I'm gonna give you some instructions, and then we're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna tell you, you will never feel like you're ready. Ever. You will never feel like you're ready. Ministry, creativity, building anything, you will never feel like you're ready. You'll never feel like you're smart enough. You'll never feel like you're good enough. You'll never feel that. If you wait on the feeling, you will stay on that Ferris wheel or on that hamster wheel. If you wait on the feeling, I could not wait on the feeling. I had to just get up and do something. I had to do what God told me to do. I could not wait on the feeling. I couldn't wait for nobody to validate me. God made sure that He started me when I was in isolation. You know why? Because God didn't want me to be addicted to validation. He didn't want me to be addicted to somebody saying, go do that. And then I'm like, okay, now I can go do it. God wanted me to get out here and He wanted me to build. When God told me to do this YouTube channel, I didn't want to come on YouTube. I didn't want story. I didn't want to be on YouTube. I didn't want to be an influencer. I didn't want that. I just made a promise to Him to say yes to anything He tells me to do. God ain't gonna lead you down the path that you want to go on. He ain't gonna use you the way you want to be used. See, most of the time we talk about using, you get excited because you got a fantasy in mind. No, He don't use you the way you want to be used. God will take you down a path, and He will take you down this path. You don't know where you're going. This don't look like the life you plan for yourself, or what have you. It's frustrating. You deal with the warfare of it, all of that stuff. But you got to make a promise to yourself, and more than that, make a promise to God that you won't quit. You got to make that promise. You have to make that. That's something that you can't make with a person. It's something that you got to make on the inside. This is something I had to say on the inside. I'm not gonna quit. I had to make this promise to God. If you tell me to do something, I'm gonna do it. If you say preach, I'm gonna do it. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And a lot of the stuff that God told me to do, I was absolutely uncomfortable. A lot of the stuff God told me to do, I did not want to do it at that moment. I felt like, give me a month, give me 3 months, give me a year, give me 8 years. What are you talking about? I did not want to do it. I had to just say yes. So I'm saying this to say, you cannot dictate or lord yourself over how God lords you. You cannot tell God, I will say yes. Because when you say I will say yes, you are saying no. When you say I say yes, then that Ferris wheel, God lets you off and He starts taking you down a journey. And one of the things, and this is just me getting before I get to the notes, one of the things I've learned, and I was actually about to do a TikTok on this, decided against it. But one of the things I've learned, I talked about creators, or what I wanted to talk about was creators. A lot of times what God does is He'll put your assignment where you can see it in your head. You can see other people doing it. And one of the things that you have to do, you need accountability. You need somebody to tell you to sit down somewhere. Because if not, you will burn yourself out trying to get to that. You will burn yourself out trying to get to that, because you will see what God promised you. It's something that God's going to do for you. And you will burn yourself out trying to become popular, trying to do all that stuff. If I can't tell you nothing else, I will tell you, chase God. Do not chase popularity. Do not don't chase influence, and don't chase popularity. Don't do that. I can give you a lot of advice. I'll tell you, don't speak to platforms you've never stood on, because that's dangerous. Be careful what you do with your lips and your mouth and your head. Make sure you pray, get wise counsel, listen before you speak. I can give you a lot of advice that will help to sustain you in your assignment. Because one thing about it is, if you have walked that mile, you will see a lot of prophets and prophetic people following around along the way. You'll see a lot of prophets, but then you start to notice the patterns of God. When you start having history with God, you start noticing that the people that survive on that path, the people that thrive on that path, they're very similar to you in the fact that they're careful what they do with their lips, which is what David did. David talked about, I stored your word within me so that I will not sin against you with my lips. You have to be really careful. You got to have somebody that you are accountable to, and understand that, hey, it's going to be offensive at times. They're going to cut you, all of that stuff. You got to go on that path. Stop. Can I say this? Can I say this? This is me ministering to you. Stop looking for leaders that don't want to cut you. Stop looking for leaders that'll tell you what you want to hear. You're looking for pacification. You need somebody that sits back and cares more about the assignment on your life than your gift, than your attitude, than you being offended. I One thing about it, one of the reasons that God can use me to the best of it, because I don't give three rats feathers if I didn't have this channel or whatever. I want God to use me, but I don't give three rats feathers. I'm not out here trying to be popular. I'm not out here trying, and this is what the enemy can't hold over me. I can't give three rats feathers. If somebody get mad at me and unfollow me, trust me when I tell you, I'm gonna still sleep. I'm gonna snore, I'm gonna do whatever. You know why? Because at the end of the day, I care what God thinks about me, not what people think about me. I care what God thinks about me. I'm more concerned with going before Him and Him looking at me. I don't want to hear those words. Um, get away from me, for I never knew you. I don't. That's terrifying to me. I love Him and I fear Him. And I want to make sure that I'm always walking that narrow road. And so I'm very conscious about my relationship with Him. I'm saying this to say, I don't want to love bomb you or gaslight you into thinking that the journey is going to be easy. I don't want to tell you that lie. One of the worst things that you come in contact with as a leader is entitlement. I was telling that to a sister in Christ the other day. One of my students, I was telling her, one of the worst things you come in contact with in ministry is entitlement. I said it's the most frustrating thing because you come to realize that not only is your life not your own, people really feel like your life belongs to them. Like what you have is mine, and you supposed to do that. You called yourself Christian. Well, you said yes to the call. Well, you supposed to say it again too. That's one of the hardest things because you're really giving up your life. You're giving up your life to help people get saved, to help them have better lives, to even right now, me pulling on you to come into your assignment. Me pulling on you to say yes to God rather than saying, I'm going to do it. Lie is a lie. It's a lie from within. Rather than saying, yes, I say yes to your will. Use me in any way you see fit. I may not like how you use me, but I ask that you strengthen me and I ask that you guide me and I commit to not quitting. I commit to not quitting. When I'm offended, I won't quit. When I'm scared, I won't quit. I'm going to keep saying yes to you all the days of my life. If you want to touch God's yes, you got to touch him with your yes. All right. I'm going to give you some instructions. If you want to touch God's yes, you got to hit him with your yes. There's too many Christians that tell God no, too many Christians that tell God wait, and then they get mad at God because they're like, I've been asking him for this for a long time, and he ain't even gave me a breakthrough. I'm starting to question whether or not he exists. Like, wait, that's like having a spouse that they're just sitting up and they never want to do anything for you, and now they're talking about a divorce because you won't do something for them. They'll have you going to war for real. I'm telling you, the war that I've had to go through, but I thank God because it's crucified my flesh. It has killed this flesh of mine, or what have you. God is still taking me through it. He still will crucify the flesh or what have you. But baby, ministry is not for the weak at heart. But if you ever weak, if you are weak at heart, God will strengthen you along the way. It's not because it is definitely an assignment. Even business. Let me say that. Even in business, I have my companies. I have Anointedfire House Publishing. I have Anointedfire Seal and Logo. I have quite a few things. I have Vision. I have quite a few things. I just opened up an office space back in February. One of my goals I was supposed to do it this year, but starting the end of this year, I'm supposed to be taking so many people and trying to help them to reach millionaire status. I'm talking about believers. I do believe in bringing the wealth into the kingdom. I believe in it. I believe in helping people to walk in their destiny and their assignment. And I'm talking about people who have a heart for God or what have you. Um, but I've said yes to the call of my life. And me saying yes, God will give you so many responsibilities that you like, can I please have a moment? Can I please? You have to steal a nap. But you know what? It's beautiful because it's either that or you scroll TikTok and scroll your life away. It's either that. Either way, you're gonna do something. You're gonna give your life to something. So I'd much rather give it to God. So let's go ahead. We're gonna go to homework, and this is gonna be um 10 instructions. I won't spend a long time on them because they're just instructions. Number one, get in a faith-based community if you're not already in one. Ask the Lord what church He wants you to go to and get into a faith-based community. A good Bible-based, faith-based community. You can even get into a church, but you can also join a mentorship program. I have my mentorship program. It's amazing. I'm learning more about who's calling me versus the people that are not calling me based on the mentorship program. one thing I'm learning more about the mentorship program and what God wants me to do with it. My job, the ladies that have been with me for 3 years, my job is to cultivate them, right? My job is to cultivate them, help them to develop integrity, character, a greater love of God above all things. And at the same time, to walk in the call on their lives, to say yes to the call on their lives. To go out there and do those things that they're afraid to do, teach them how to cast out demons, teach them to do all that stuff, and also so that they can learn to walk in sisterhood. Walk in sisterhood. That's why when we have new students, we try to encourage them, get into the community and integrate. Don't come up in there and just, post up whenever you have a question or something like that and expect everybody to answer your question and you don't want to integrate or what have you. So homework, get into a faith-based community, open your mouth and be accountable is number 2. Open your mouth, be accountable with your thoughts and feelings. Don't keep that stuff in. Get it out. That's why the Bible says there's safety in a multitude of counselors. That means it's dangerous to be without counselors. It is dangerous to be without counsel, without wise counsel. Open your mouth, be accountable with your thoughts and feelings. Number 3, master rejection. If you are a prophetic person, if you're an introvert, you're going to have to master that thing, because it's one thing to cast out the demon of rejection, but realistically speaking, rejection is a fact of life. You're going to be rejected, period. If they rejected Christ, they're going to reject you. If they persecuted him, they're going to persecute you. That is your Bible. So you have to master that thing. That means that hear me, you got to get out of that phase of retaliation. You got to get out of that phase of retaliation. Well, because what retaliation would do, it'll make you ambitious in ministry. It'll make you ambitious in business. It'll make you ambitious. It'll make you sit up there and ignore everything, every step because you're too busy trying to get to the top. You're too busy trying to get to 100,000 followers, 10,000 followers. You're too busy trying to run, and you'll ignore everything else around you. And when people do that, they end up getting swallowed up. It will make you chase, success, because the fantasy in your mind, they gonna hate that they left me, persecuted me, talked about me, rejected me. They gonna hate me then. And sure, when I get on a platform, that's why when you find yourself thinking like that, get a therapist. You have to master rejection. That means whenever I go into a space, if I'm rejected, I cannot let that thing impact me. Check this out. Check this out. I'm gonna show you something. See this? Saw that? That's called power. I got the power to move that. And it doesn't take much for me. I got the power to move that. If you make choices based on what somebody did to you, they got power. They got the power to move you. They got the power to move you. No ex of mine, nobody in my past, nobody in my present, nobody in my future should have the ability to move me in a negative way. That means nothing they say should bother me. If I go into a room and I'm rejected, that shouldn't move me. It shouldn't move me emotionally. It shouldn't move me physically. It shouldn't move me spiritually. I should be sound enough to sit there and understand that ain't my problem, that's theirs. I'm telling you, you have to stop making other people's problem your own. Stop internalizing. Introvert. Hear me, prophetic introvert, creative introvert. Stop internalizing other people's issues. Those are not your issues. You can't fix them. There's a difference between control and self-control. Whenever you get into the spirit of control, it's because you have no self-control. You didn't work on yourself, which is the first law. God says, remove the mote from your own eye. You didn't work on self-control. And when you don't work on self-control, your emotions will get swollen, right? Your emotions will get swollen because you're going to keep getting hit. You're going to keep getting hurt. You're going to keep getting offended. Swollen emotions are called pride. Your emotions are going to start spilling over like a big belly. And when they spill over, they're going to get bigger than your mind, which means that you're easily offended or what have you, because you had no self-control. And when you get to that space, you'll try to control other people because you don't want to feel offended, because you don't want to feel scared. You don't want to feel insecure. So consequently, you'll start trying to control other people. You'll start, and they're different. I'm going to do a lesson. Y'all, somebody, don't let me forget. Please, don't let me forget. I'm going to do a lesson on control, the different types of controls, the different methodologies we use or people use to control other people, because everything that the devil does centers itself around control. Every time you have a problem with a person, it centers itself around control. Even in ministry, people are always trying to control what comes out of your lip. There's always control. You will never get away from it. Every time the enemy attacks you, Everything centers itself around control. I want to do a lesson, and I'm going to talk about the methodology of control. Not finding offense. I don't find offense. I take the lesson from it. So something can be offensive. And I was telling this to my students. I'm going to draw it out for you guys, and then I'm going to get back into this. I was telling this to my students. I ran out of paper in this one, but we bless God for other notebooks, right? We bless God for other notebooks. I'm that weirdo. If you want to give me a nice Christmas gift, buy me a lot of notebooks. If you want to give me a nice Christmas gift, there you go, right there. And no, I don't celebrate Christmas before somebody come from me. But I'm just saying, if you want to give me a nice gift, buy me a lot of. Just roll up on me with a truckload of notebooks. All right. I love you a long time. We love you a long time. Okay. Let me show you this way because I see the picture, but I don't see the pen. Here's the pen. You know, I got to get more organized on my desk. All right. I want to show you something. All of these are not emotions, but we're going to talk about them as emotions, right? I want to show you something. I want you to imagine that all of these are buttons. This is how I see when people do something that's offensive, I get to choose how I feel. I've learned that when you're growing in it, whatever emotion comes your way, you just go ahead and tap in. But as you mature, as you heal, the emotions become, or the event becomes more external than it is internal. But you have to let it in. So this is how I see things when people, like if I find myself in a situation, let's say it's offensive. This is what I see. I see buttons. I see buttons around me. And when I see those buttons, I feel like this. I could push peace. I could push curiosity. One of my buttons I love to push is curiosity. I could actually push offense. I could push terror. But one of my favorite buttons is curiosity. Curiosity makes me question. It makes me chew stuff, ruminate it. It makes me look at the thing from an objective standpoint. It makes me try to extract the revelation from it. So let's say somebody reaches out to me and says, Tiffany, let's say it's a relative. They reach out to me and say, and I ain't heard from them for 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 years. I need $150 to pay my light bill. And I say no. And then they turn around and get mad and block me. They say some really ugly stuff and then they block me. That's offensive, but I'm not offended because I know their mindset. So I know that that's not my issue, that's their issue. But at the same time, what they did was they tried to offend me. So curiosity makes me ruminate it. And this is how I get revelation from it, because curiosity will make me say, I'll run it through the filters of my mind. I'll say, this is crazy. This is why people be broke. It's because they don't know how to treat other people. They see other people as objects. So it starts off in generalization, and then it moves into the course of objectification. When you start seeing people as objects, then the problem becomes you start dealing with high level dishonor. Level dishonor will lead you in a high level witchcraft, which will start to cause a bunch of things that break down in your life. And you get into witchcraft, and then if you're not mature enough, you mix witchcraft with religion, you end up having a religious spirit, and can't nobody tell you nothing. Now you start trying to speak curses over people, what have you. Find your money going down. You going to church and you wearing all of this religious garb and doing all this stuff. So you see what I'm doing in there. I could be in my car breaking that down. So when I'm doing this, what you'll find me doing is I'll push this button here, peace. Peace, be still. So I'm telling myself, I'm I'm not going to give an hour of my time to be offended. I'm not giving the enemy none of my time for offense, because if I'm offended, that thing will keep running through my mind. And I don't like that. I don't like anything to take up my time. So I don't like something to run through my mind repeatedly. So because of that, what I do is I'll choose peace. I'll choose joy. I choose curiosity. What else? I may even choose to numb myself. If it's something big, I may choose to numb myself. I choose self-awareness. I'll pay attention to myself. So if I notice that I'm taking that in, I will start talking to myself. Like David said to himself, rejoice all my soul and all that is within me. I will start saying, girl, don't you dare. You know good and well that's just silly. You know that was a devil. You know that was a devil. I'll start talking to myself, and then I'll start breaking it down. And hear me when I tell you, when I start doing that, catch this. I could extract books from it. Literally, if I had like 10 people that could write around me, I could just say, hey, I'm going to say this. I'm giving this revelation. Go write that in a book for me. Go write that in a book for me. I would be pushing books out left and right with the stuff that comes up, because what I'm doing is I'm always breaking stuff down. I don't like control, and I don't like to be controlled by my emotions or anybody's emotions for that matter. I don't like that. So I'm saying this to say, you have the ability, but you got to learn how to step outside of your feelings and make your feelings step outside of you, so that that thing doesn't control you. You have the ability to see these things as buttons. So, for example, if I say something and it's offensive, see it as a button and say, I choose not to be offended. And you press that button. You say, I choose this, and you get to choose what emotion. If you choose the right emotions, what can happen is you can actually extract revelation, because you're not caught up in the feelings part of it. You can extract revelation. When you start extracting revelation, you'll either understand or you may come up with something better, right? So it's all about what you tap into. It's all about what you tap into. So we were back on instructions. Go to a faith-based community, which is a church. Get in a ministry program and all that. Number 2, open your mouth. Be accountable with your thoughts and feelings. Number 3, master rejection. Stop letting it master you. Master rejection. Stop letting it master you. You go into a space, practice. Literally, you go into a space and you feel rejected, practice. Ask yourself, is this me? Am I feeling rejected, or am I actually, because there's a such thing as actual rejection, and there's a such thing as perceived rejection. Perceived rejection is not actual. If you have dealt with rejection over the course of your life, if your relational acuity is low, you will have perceived rejection. Whereas you'll go into a space, and because you may come in contact with an introvert, for example, and an introvert, they don't let you, they're just kind of in the room, and you say, hey, how you doing? They say, hey, how you doing? And you end up like, and you say, that's a pretty watch. Oh, thank you. And every time you see her, she's just like that. You can end up with perceived rejection. The person is not rejecting you. The person is just an introvert or what have you. They have their world, their bubble, and their world is sacred to them. Most introverts, their worlds are sacred to them because they don't like anything to be knocked off in their world. So they're not going to openly invite you into their world. Doesn't matter how cute you are. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter what. They're not going to openly invite you into their world because most introverts deal with distrust. Most introverts deal with distrust, so they're not going to openly invite you into their world. So when you're sitting in that space, don't take offense to that. Just understand this is relational acuity. I'm giving everybody the grace to be who they are. I'm giving everybody the grace to be who they are and how they are. That way, as I begin to build relationships, I don't put pressure on people to conform to my brokenness. I don't put pressure on people to make me feel better about, if I'm feeling some type of way, I'm going to go home and I'm going to wrestle with it on my own. I'm going to beat that thing down rather than letting it beat me down. Oh, you're most welcome. Master rejection, stop letting it master you. Number 4, spend excessive amounts of time with God. As an introvert, as a prophetic person, as a creative, believe it or not, you need a lot of time with God. Sometimes I would even dare to say, and when I say excessive, I don't think there's a such thing as excessive amount of time with God, but I'm saying you may have to spend more time with God than most people do. You may have to spend more time with God than most people do because you are an overthinker. Remember, I told you that introverts, according to science, don't live as long as extroverts. I don't necessarily believe that. I just believe that the whole concept of introversion, we didn't necessarily have language for it. And a lot of people don't know how to have outlets. They don't know what to do with what's on the inside of them. And I believe that you can change that by getting that stuff out of you. I believe you can change that by having the right outlets and the proper feeling, making sure your filters are clean, get all of the offense and the carnal desires out of your filters and stuff like that. But spend excessive amounts of time with God. You have to go into the presence of God every day and talk to God. You got to spend excessive amounts of time with God. Number 5, loosen your grip. Don't cling to every person who manages to get in your bubble. Loosen your grip. Don't cling to everybody that manages to get in your circle or get in your bubble. One thing about an introvert, because we don't like small talk. Like I said, we typically have close everybody that comes into our circle. We rarely ever have distant friends. Everybody's close, right? We bring people close real quick, real fast. But sometimes what you have to do is you have to be careful that you're not bringing everybody into your circle. Number one. Number two, when you bring people into your circle, sometimes you can be overbearing. Hear me. Sometimes they can become your family. Sometimes they can become your family because you may not have a great relationship with your family. So a lot of times you can end up and you can make somebody your everything. You can end up putting such a tight grip on people that they start running from you. You can put such a tight grip on people because you know you're too busy trying to build something like a best friendship or a great romantic relationship, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you could be overbearing. Sometimes you can bring people and you can put such a tight grip on them to the point where they're fleeing from you. To the point that used to be my issues. I would put such a tight grip on people, and I had to learn, to loosen my grip and let everybody just be. Let people live their lives. Let people do what they need to do, or what have you. But you have to loosen your grip. Yeah, a lot of us we do that. We'll get it, and we kind of loosen. We'll tighten our grip, and we'll be like, okay, you just met somebody, and they become your world. And what you doing today? You going here? I'm coming with you. What you doing now? I'm coming with you. Then we on the phone with them or what have you, and we'll put such a burden on them or what have you. And the next thing you know, they will go on the run. Number 6, chase God over all things. You are a chaser. You're a runner and a chaser. Don't run from God, chase him. Don't run from God, chase him. And you got to chase him of all things. Don't chase fame. Don't chase money. Don't chase skirts or pants. Don't chase success and none of that stuff. Chase God. God has to become your everything. One thing I've learned, I told y'all, I ran from being an influencer. I ran from a lot of stuff, but it's funny because when you run from that stuff and you chase God, that stuff starts chasing you. When you run from that stuff, when you run from stuff start chasing you. When you run, you just sit up there like, God, I'm just gonna chase you. I just want you. I love you. Stuff start chasing you. Stuff start chasing you. And when stuff start chasing you, it start catching you, overwhelming you, and you just sit there like, Lord, Lord, what is happening? What have you? And I can tell you this. My experience with God is that y'all hear me. He want to love on you so much. My experience with him, it makes me think of how I am with Milo. And don't want to compare him to me, but it makes me think of how I am with Milo. Last week, I've been trying to get myself some winter clothes. Typically, when I go out shopping, I bring something from Milo back. And one thing I find joy in, one thing I find excitement in, it's funny to me. When I buy something, when I come home with a bunch of bags, and when I set them on the floor, Milo goes through each bag. Milo will go to the bag and he's putting his head because he's so used to me buying stuff for him. He's so used to me buying him a toy. And those 2 days, I forgot. I told myself I was going to get him something. Yes, I did spoil him. I told myself I was going to get him something. And he went through the bags and he didn't get nothing. And I'm so sorry. He got over it real quick, but it was hard for me to get over it because I wanted, because I saw the little tail wagging low and I knew he was just looking for that thing. So one day I was out. I went to Home Goods. That was yesterday, I think it was. I went to Home Goods, and it's probably off of my stories now. Let me see. Yeah, it is. But it's off of my stories now. But I went to Home Goods, and while I was in Home Goods, I was looking for. I need some small shelves to go at the top of this closet that I have in my hallway because I got too many purses. That's another story for another time. But I got this top shelf, and I'm like, if I get like 2 or 3 shelves that go up, I can use those. That'd be cool, or what have you. So I went into Home Goods looking for it. When I got in there, immediately I started thinking, they got a toy section for dogs. Please go get your dog some toys. Because those last couple of times, you know how you felt real crappy because you didn't buy him nothing? Please go get something for your dog. So I made my way over there. I bought him three toys. I bought him three big old toys. And if I play it, because I know I can, like, 9 times out of 10 find it where somebody liked it or something like that, or they laughed at it. But where is he at? He in his kennel. He gonna jump off of here. I take joy in buying stuff for him. I'll play it for y'all, and y'all just forgive him because he gonna come out of his kennel when I play it. I buy you something. I buy you something. Okay, all right, you like. Okay, let's do the pet. Oh, my bad. Hold up. Give me a moment. You ran on your baby. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I didn't try to hit you with that. Behind the speaker. You're welcome. Now you see him running with one of them for joy. All right. That's enough. Can I have it back? No? You got to run a lap to celebrate. Can I at least take the tags off of them? Now, like I said, he was going to come over here. He is currently right here. Oh, what have you? Because when he heard that I bought you. Yeah, he knows those words. But I take joy. That me buying stuff for him is not just for him. I take joy in that. That dog has so many toys. I've had to throw away tons of toys over the years. That dog has so many toys. I'm always wanting to bless him. I'm always loving those moments of watching his tail wag, watching him get excited and running those laps and stuff like that. I cherish that. I cherish doing those things. If I feel like that about him, how do you think God feels about you? Do you understand that God wants to bless you beyond measure? Do you understand that God desires you so much? I remember looking at videos and seeing, so many talented people and stuff like that. And knowing that they were unsaved and feeling the heart of God and just weeping because I could feel like, look at their talent or what have you. God wants them so much. Like, look at what He gave them. He wants that back, but they're using it for the world. God wants them so much. He wants them so much. He wants you so much. Believe it or not, God genuinely wants you, regardless of whether you're talented or not. God genuinely wants you. He wants to see you smile. A lot of people don't know that because you keep surrounding yourself with the wrong people. You're not chasing God like you should. And so you spend more time frowning than you do smiling. So it's hard for you to conceptualize that you serve a God who actually takes joy in you smiling. They do. They love us unconditionally. He's my baby boy. God takes pleasure in watching you smile. I've watched God do that with me over the years. With all of the stuff I've been through, I've watched God just have fun. There was a time where it felt like maybe He's mad at me and all this other stuff. No, I've met this side of God. I've met God. I've met the God that takes pleasure in saying, "I want to use you. I want to bless you. I want to do something else for you." I just bought him them three toys. You can bet your by golly buy. If I go out this week, if I go to a store, if I see a toy I think he like, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it. If I'm like that toward him, imagine how much God is, how much He loves you, how much I take joy in that. That's therapeutic for me. Watching him run and stuff like that, that's therapeutic for me. It makes me smile. It makes me smile. All right. Chase God over all things. Number 7. Practice solving problems instead of running from them. Practice solving problems. Stop running. Stop quitting your job. Stop quitting your churches. Stop quitting. Solve the problem. What is the solution? I want you to challenge yourself like that. Begin to ask yourself, this is a problem, but what is the solution? What is the solution? This is a problem, but what is the solution? Ask yourself that question. And one thing you'll see is that your life will start to change whenever you start looking at things from a solution based mindset as opposed to looking at it from a problem based mindset. When you look at it from the area code of problems, you end up in this neighborhood of thinking called victimhood. You end up in this neighborhood called victimhood. I don't know why I went through this and I don't know why I went through that. No, it's funny. When I talk about the stories and stuff that I've been through, I didn't even know it was that much, until I started talking about it. And, a lot of people will point it out. They'll be like, dang, you've been through a lot. But I don't look at it like, yeah, I've been through a lot. I look at it like, man, I've been through a lot. Like, y'all, this is weird about me. And I don't know any other way to explain it. I'm going to get back in this before y'all see my complete weird stuff. So I take joy in the fact that I've been through a lot. I don't want to go through no more. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to go through no more. I take joy because there's revelation in all of it. There's revelation, and it gives me the ability to help a broader range of people. You cannot get on my phone or come into my presence and play the victim and talk about stuff you've been through. And this is the reason why you ain't serving God or you ain't going to church, because it is very rare. You heard me say it before. It is very rare for me to come in contact with people that went through more than I have. When I say it's rare, I'm talking about when the lottery rare. So there, if I know if God can heal me because I wanted to be healed, if He can use me because I wanted to be used, if He can deliver me because I wanted to be delivered, if you still making excuses because you don't want God like that, it's because you don't want her like that. Inventors come from solutionists. Successful people come from a solution mindset. So a rich businessman, for example, will look for a problem. They don't run from problems. Poor people run from problems. Poverty runs from problems. Prosperity looks for problems to solve because you make money from solving problems. So, for example, somebody created the Apple iPhone and they did an amazing job, but people start noticing every time you drop these jokers, guess what? They were breaking like crazy. Somebody said, now that's a problem. Some somebody had theirs and they cussed. They were smart, they cussed, or what have you. They could have used their brain for something else, but they used their brain to cuss. They used their brain to do all that. Another person went bought an Apple phone. I've seen people on YouTube do this, right? They bought an Apple phone and they said, huh, and they threw it on the ground. I saw a man buy two Apple iPhone 15 because I was thinking about upgrading one. Get a hammer and break it. What they are doing is they're looking for a solution because there's billions of dollars in a solution. They will make a sacrifice of a few $1,000s to get to $1 million or $1 billion solution because your teeth are jacked up. No, it's not a legitimate excuse. You got to get over people, please. And at the end of the day, let people say what they're gonna say, or what have you. And also, I would say talk to your dentist about things that you can do to fix it, so your self esteem, so you can feel conscious, so you can feel good about yourself. But no, that's not a good enough excuse. That's not a good enough excuse. I understand it, but I would say get therapy first. Pray that off of you, and also look for solutions. Right? Look for solutions. So, if there's something about yourself that you don't like, look for a solution to fix it. Look for a solution to fix it. Don't just live with it. Don't just, feel bad about it. Look for a solution for it. But practice solving problems. Make it a point to, when you come in contact with a problem, sit with it for a minute. Sit in the room and just stare at it. Just move it around. Study it. Because what you're doing when you study a problem, you're knocking on heaven's door. You're saying, and you pray about it, especially. What you're doing is you're saying, there's wisdom in here. There's revelation in here. Like I said, that there's somebody that had the phone and they dropped it and they cussed. And they cussed and they cussed again. And they had the scrape. There's somebody that got the phone, they dropped it, and they were like, huh, that's interesting. They bought them another phone. They said, cloop, that's interesting. Cloop, that's interesting. And then you know what they ended up doing? They bought this. They ended up bought, but they created an invention. They said, what if I can put something on here that's strong? Something that will protect it or what have you. They created an invention. Made millions, if not billions of dollars from it. You don't have the money? Go make it. What I'm doing, this is called impartation. I want you to come out of victimhood. I don't want you to think like a victim. I want you to understand that the kingdom of heaven is in you, which means that the opportunity, all the wealth that you will ever make is on the inside of you. It's not external, it's internal. And so you have to bring it out. What is your talent? Get mentorship and stuff like that, but what is your talent? Go into your church and volunteer. What is your talent? Use your talent to make money. Ask God to show you what your talent is, or what have you. Get out and make the money. I don't want you to sit there. I don't want you to make excuses, and I don't want you to just sit there. I want you to sit back, and I want you to feeling sorry for yourself. Me, one thing I tell self-pity whenever it comes my way, I say go away. I say go away because I don't want it. So find out a way to make it. What I'm trying to do is teach you to tap into your creativity, tap into what's on the inside of you, knock on heaven's door. What can I do to make money? There are billions of ways in the United States of America to make money. I'm gonna give it to y'all. I'm gonna give it to you raw. Foreigners come over here and make millions, if not billions, of dollars because we're spoiled over here. We're spoiled. We just get caught up in this. We're familiar with all this stuff. America is a land of wealth. You can create a solution over here. You don't have to have a college education. All you have to do is have tenacity. And you don't always need money. All you need is time and willingness. So that you can sit down and write some stuff down and develop some stuff, but you have to keep doing this, what have you. And it takes the right attitude, it takes the right mind. It takes you sitting back saying, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I believe that. I believe that God put some stuff in me. I'm gonna get it all out. Y'all hear me saying confidently, I've done quite a bit of stuff. But my next title is inventor. I'm sorry. I'm saying that to say, don't, or it was gonna be one of my next titles. I don't want to just lock myself into that. But don't ever think that you are stuck. Don't ever think that. Don't ever think you're stuck. There's always something you can do. You just got to pray about it and you got to get disciplined. Because it ain't even about whether or not you can do it or can't do it. Most of the times it's a discipline issue. Most of the times it's a discipline issue. Because at the end of the day, I was telling my students in my 3.0 class, I teach them how to create card games. I have them creating books and stuff like that. They're my 3.0 ministry, meaning they've been with me for 3 years. So they're always getting assignments. They're always getting stuff that they have to do. I don't allow them to sit and feel like victims. Like, get that stuff out of you. Get that stuff out of you. And I told them, I told them recently, at this time, you're already at the pace that you've chosen. Meaning, if you're waiting on me to give you a homework assignment, you're not dedicated to it yet. I don't want it to be where you wait on me to give you homework and say, hey, go create another card game or go create that before you go do something. I want you to be like the dude who got the 5 talents from Jesus, and you go out and say, you taught me how to create this. And look, I went created a lot of them. I got like 18 card games out there. For me, total, I think I got that's that's bad. We don't know how many games you got out there. Lord, here we go. Why my fingernails getting all up in the way? Okay. Let's type in anointed fire. And why is this in capital letters? All right. We're going to go right here. Let me click here. Let me click my logo. Then I got 3 of them, 2 or 3 that's not published. So let me tell you how many I got published. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 12, 15 that's published, and I got 3 that's not published. So I think I have a total of 18 card games. What am I saying? I want my students to have more card games than me. Can't nobody hold you back without your permission. Nobody can hold you back without your permission. People can hold all day long. They can't hold me. They can't hold me back without my permission. So it's not people trying to hold you back. That's just a reality of life. Um, it's just one of the excuses that we make, one of the things we tell ourselves. But realistically speaking, nobody can hold you back without your permission. I'm a writer. I have a rough drafts of screenplays and TV ideas on my laptop. My problem is I have to focus on one and finish it, then move to the other. I have ideas all over the place, but unfinished. So that you're what I call a super creative. And so basically what happens is The super creative, the warfare that you get is another idea. The problem that you have that comes your way is that you get an idea in, and when another one comes, you stop doing what you're working on, and then you work on that idea. You have to cultivate that. You have to literally, like, I've learned that I have to ignore the new idea, because sometimes a new idea didn't come from God, it can come from the devil. It can be a good idea and it seems simple and it's designed to take me away from the idea that God gave me. And I was telling somebody this the other day. I said, you ain't gotta throw away that idea. If it's a good idea that the enemy, if it ain't demonic or crazy or anything like that, what he's doing is trying to distract me. I'm stealing from the thief. I'm gonna write it down. But I'm gonna keep working on the stuff that God gave me. I'm gonna write it down. Oh, I'm gonna do a card game on this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna write it down. I'll write out the outline. I'll write out whatever knowledge I got, whether it's coming from God or the enemy. I'm gonna write it down. But I'm gonna focus on this till I finish. I'm a finisher. I'm gonna focus right here until I finish. Because I used to be like that. I used to jump away around from one project to another, and I never get anything finished. That is warfare. My biggest enemy was another idea. I'd be sitting up there working, and I'm like, ooh. And so trust me, I be working on ideas, and another one comes in now. Ooh, and my mind is like, oh yes, 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 yes. But I've learned I got to get that out of there so I can get all that yes, yes, that excitement. I'm gonna take the notes feature on my phone. I'm gonna write the notes down up and down, and be like, idea, this. I'm gonna write. I'll even use the voice notes feature on my phone and record idea. So this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. Or what have you. I'm putting everything in order. I'm gonna write the vision. I'm gonna make it plain. But then I'm gonna come back over here because I'm a finisher. I'm gonna come back over here and I'm gonna finish what I'm doing. What I found is when it's from the enemy, that idea is gonna dissipate. The excitement of it is gonna dissipate. The minute I finish this, it's gonna dissipate. But it's too late. I stole the idea from the enemy. He's a thief. So if he brings it my way, trying to distract me, I'm gonna take it from him because he took it from somebody. Y'all better hear me. He took it from somebody. He took it from somebody. He took it from somebody that wasn't doing anything with it. So it's a good idea. It could be a God idea, but God didn't necessarily give me that idea, and God doesn't mind me stealing from the thief. Sister Jillian, I have a publishing company. Go to anointedfirehouse.com and you can publish through my company. You can consider publishing through my company. So I'm going to take you from the thief. So when the enemy comes and he brings that idea to me, and I'm working on something, I'm like, yay, yay, yay. That's a good idea. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna do everything I got. I'm gonna draw an outline of it. Or what have you. I'm gonna use my voice notes feature on my phone and I'm gonna put it aside. And then I'm gonna get back to the idea that I've been working on. And I can feel the pull because sometimes the ideas keep coming. Or what have you. I'm gonna stop, write everything down, but then I'm gonna keep on working on what I've been working on until I'm done with it. I'm a finisher. I want you to say that I'm a finisher. Learn to do that. Excuse me, I'm a finisher. Practice solving problems and stop running from them. Number 8, get therapy and plenty of it. I add to this and say get wise counsel. Get wise counsel and get therapy. And wise counsel are the people that you're going to be accountable to, but you also want to get therapy. Every creative, every prophetic gift, every creative gift needs to have a therapist that they can call, they can set up a session with. You got to have somebody to help you with that head of yours. Got to have somebody to help you with that head of yours. You got to have you got to have leaders in your life you can be accountable to, or what have you. But get therapy and get plenty of it. Sister Janika, you're beautiful. Thank you, beautiful. Thank you. God bless you. Get therapy and get plenty of it. Again, make sure you have wise counsel around you. Wise counsel, and hear me. Let me give you this. Wise counsel is not going to always be available. That means that I'm going to be on speed dial. I want us to get past the fantasy of having like that person that we can call and they're going to stop what they're doing and that doesn't happen, especially when you're dealing with people who are busy. Just make sure that you have people that you can text or even if you're in a church or what have you, get involved in your church. You'll be amazed at how much wisdom is in your church. And when I say wisdom, don't just focus on your pastor. Get involved, volunteer. When you volunteer, you'll find yourself surrounded by other people, and sometimes you can get some of the greatest help from those people. You can get some of the greatest help from those people. Hey, I'm in this situation, I'm in this season, or what have you, and they can drop revelation on you. I tell the students that in my mentorship program, I said, don't look at me. Because right now, I think I have like 60, 70 students in my mentorship program. And the objective is to have 100. I would love to have 100 by the end of this year. But I got to do another interest meeting. And I will be setting that up soon. But when it comes down to it, I tell them, I say, hey, don't look to me because I'm one person. So if I got 60, 70 students and we had 100 or something at one point, a lot of them graduated. But if they were all looking at me, my inbox would be, my email would be just inundated. They all have team leads or in teams. That's how I divide them up. So they can ask questions in their groups and they can post to the main message board. I don't have to answer the majority of questions that populate on that board. I don't have to touch majority of the questions that populate on that board. I saw a question, just like I was thinking about a question I saw today. I don't remember what the question was. I don't remember what the answer was. But I remember seeing a question. I scroll, saw somebody answer. They answered better than I would have. So that's why I told them, I said, y'all don't think you're smart, but there are people on here that have been through things you've been through. You know how to give them advice. And so one thing I encourage, because I don't want them to idolize me and I don't want them to become dependent on me, I encourage them, do a video or type out your problem, what you're going through. When they post it to the message board, almost 100% of the time, there's going to be somebody that get in that comment section is going to give them some really good advice. If not, occasionally I come on there, I may see something, I do a reply video. What about the people that paid but didn't get the interview? Oh, I'm still setting it up. I was supposed to have, the last interview was supposed to be my last one, but because I didn't convey that and because I haven't changed my form, I'm going to be doing another one. I'm thinking I can't say tomorrow, which is Saturday, because I'm going to a memorial service on tomorrow. But I'm going to set something up for next week. So I haven't emailed everybody yet. And I'm glad you asked, but I haven't emailed everybody yet because I haven't necessarily set a date yet. And I didn't want to commit to a date and then end up emailing y'all again because I've already committed or I end up double committing to something or what have you. So I will be emailing soon. You're on the email list. All I have to do is download it, upload it to MailChimp, and then shoot out the email. All right. But definitely just be patient with me. I appreciate y'all. All right. Number 9, don't assume and then overthink. Ask. Don't assume and then overthink. Ask. Just like I appreciate what Sister Tanya did. She asked, right? That's how you do. Some people would just assume. I literally get emails from people that are just like, I did this, and then they just assume they've been robbed or something like that. And then it creates a problem. But what have you? But don't assume and then overthink. Just ask. And this is how you manage being a creative or how you manage being an introvert. Don't assume because you overthink. What we have a tendency to do is we create theories and stories. That's what I say, use your craziest content, creating books and stuff like that. So what you do is you don't assume, take the time out to ask people. I've had more problems with introverts than I've had with extroverts with that issue, where with them thinking things that weren't true. And then they just kind of thought it over time and thought it and thought it, and it would build up in their brains, it'll build up in their minds, and to create offense. And then by the time I'm like, hey, what's going on? By the time they finally start opening up, I'm like, why you let that build in you for like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? Why you let that thing build? Why didn't you reach out to me? I ain't want to bother you. I'm like, you should have reached out. That right there, we could have killed that, and that would have stopped it from building. It had a foundation to build on. We could have killed that right then and there, but you allowed that thing to go for too long. So don't assume, because some of you right now, you're dealing with offense with somebody because of something you've assumed, because something they may have said, something they didn't say, something they did, something they didn't do. And so what you've done is you've created theories around it. And those theories make sense. There's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is death. You've created theories around it. It's not just death to the self, but it can be death to relationships. You've created theories around it. And these theories have caused you to self-isolate, to cut people off, and what have you. And what the theory that you have is not true. How do I know that? I've had so many counseling sessions with creatives who've done that. And I sit back and say, this is the problem, is that you're using your creativity for the wrong thing. And you've created this thing where it's just layers and layers of lies that you're stacking up, and everything looks like it's confirming itself because you're stacking up all these lies. And then eventually what ends up happening is you end up sabotaging relationships and stuff like that. All right. So don't assume it and then overthink. Ask. As I said, Sister Tanya, your question was actually perfect timing. Perfect timing. Number 10, share your love with others. Stop being selfish with it. Ooh wee. Last one. Then we're finna go. Instructions. This is for the introvert because you are stingy with your love. You are stingy with your love. You are stingy. You have so much love to give. I'm talking about so much love to give, but you're stingy with it. And you start hoarding your love for yourself. And you can get to the point where you start overly loving yourself. And when I say overly loving yourself, you can actually spoil yourself. You can actually end up spoiling yourself. So share your love with others. Do not hoard your love. Take the time out to love on other people. Take the time out to intercede for other people. Take the time out to let other people know that you see them. Become the people what you felt like you needed. Become the people what you felt like you needed at any given time. Because you know that many times as an introvert, you don't always get people that check on you. You don't always get all the things that you need because people are used to you self-isolating, and you always come off as that. You always come off as somebody that doesn't need any help. Right. You always come off as somebody that doesn't need any help. You always come off as somebody that is, good on your own. So consequently, you have to fight through a lot of things on your own. But one thing you have to do is you have to take the time out. God put so much love in you. Share that love. Can I be a little bit controversial before we get out of here? Can I? I said this to my students, and we were talking this week about how to. I don't remember what I was teaching. I got my lessons over here, but I ain't gonna look. But one of the things I think it was trauma. I think we were dealing with trauma. I'm not sure. But that's a lesson on low self-esteem. I think I taught YouTube. Why do I have heartburn? Oh yeah, there go 2.0 lesson. Oh, talking about how to overcome storms. And one thing I I tell people, sometimes you have way too much love to give. And I believe this. Love is meant to be shared, but I believe that it can overwhelm you. It can overpower you if you have too much of it to give. One of the things that you can do, and like I said, it's going to be controversial. Go get yourself a pet. Go get yourself a pet. I'm talking from experience. Go get yourself a pet. Go to a kill shelter and get yourself a pet. Pray and ask God to show you the right pet, whether it be a cat, a dog. One of my students was like, no, a fish. But go get yourself a pet. Sometimes you need to have something. You need to have someone or something that you can love. Right. That's what we do. Introverts will give love and then we'll take it back. We'll be like, you know what? You're not deserving of my love. Or what have you? Go get yourself a pet. When I tell you that I take joy in me being able to give Milo so much love, and I can honestly say I had to learn to stop overpowering him with it. I had to really learn to stop overpowering him with it because he would have those moments where he'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go over here because you're a bit much, mama. You hugging on me, and I'm just you're such a beautiful baby. Mommy love you. Mommy this, mommy that. He loves all that stuff or what have you. But at the same time, you could be overpowering with. And I had to learn that God put that love in me, not just for me. Yes, He wants me to love me, but He wants me to love you too. Sometimes you can end up just swallowing up and just surrounding yourself, and you create this comfort zone out of your own love for yourself. And it can become self-worship where you're just loving on yourself, and it just becomes about you and your peace and your mental health. That, trust me, when you get a pet, it will bless your life. It's scary in the beginning because it's gonna change your life. Your life will never go back to being the same. It will change your life. I prayed about the pet. I was in prayer. It was a burden of mine. And then one morning, all of a sudden, I heard the Lord. I was living in Florida. I heard the Lord tell me, go to the shelter. I was literally getting ready to go to bed. Literally. It was morning. The daylight had broke through. I had worked all night. And I was literally getting ready to go to bed. It was like 7:35 or something like that. And I heard the Lord say, go get a pet. I lived in St. Petersburg. And I think I drove somewhere in St. Petersburg or maybe to Clearwater to the animal shelter. And I walked up in there, and I was thinking when I first pulled up, I'm just going to look at them. And I remember when I pulled in the parking lot, God said, you're going to leave with a pet. I went through there. I looked around. I was living in an apartment. I looked around. I saw all those pets. So many of them I wanted, but many of them you couldn't take to the apartment because they had, like breed restrictions. I would have. I was literally leaving the shelter, had my hand on the door, twisting the doorknob, had pulled the doorknob, and they hollering, "Ma'am, ma'am, ma'am." And I pushed the door up and I was like, "Yeah," they said, "We just got puppies." And I remember thinking, I didn't want puppies. I don't want a puppy. I wanted a grown 2-year-old dog that had already been housebroken. That was my thought because I didn't want to deal with the responsibility of a puppy. But, they were kind enough to tell me. So I was like, even though I didn't want a puppy, I was like, let me just go over here and look. And I made my way over back to where they were. I followed them. And I remember seeing Milo and two other dogs, two other puppies that looked just like him, but they were jet black. He was the only brown one, which made him stand out. And I just remember he was just kind of looking around, looking at the floor like, what's happening? And it's funny because I felt like I was having an out of body experience. I was in control, but it almost felt out of body, like I numbed myself. And I pointed to him. And I turned off my emotions. I turned off my fears, my worries about it. And I said, I want that one right there. I want that one right there. Lady said, okay. And she went, she got him out the cage. She gave him to me. Immediately when I picked him up, he wrapped his arms and he started hugging onto me and what have you. I took him, I sat down. Literally, I'm cutting off my feelings because whenever you're getting a pet, a lot of times you have to cut that stuff off because fear gets you. You start overthinking. Am I ready for this? All of that stuff, all these thoughts coming in because this is another life. So I cut all that stuff off. I just disconnected it. And I just started filling out the paperwork. They told me the fee. I paid the fee. And then I got in my car with Milo and I tried to put him on the passenger seat because, mind you, I didn't think I was going to get anything when I left. I tried to put him on the passenger seat and I'm pushing him. I'm trying to move my hands, but he was pushing to get back over to me. I'm talking about his little small pup. He was trying his best to get back over to me. Y'all want to see a baby picture of Milo? He was trying to get back over to me. And then what ultimately ended up happening was I realized that he wasn't going to let me drive. Like it was a fight. Like I'm holding him over there. He's pushing. It was a fight. Finally, Milo makes it, I let him crawl. He crawls back over there. He crawls on my lap and starts crawling up me. I pick him up and I'm holding him like this. And I never forget. I said, I heard the Lord say Milo. And I said, I was holding him like a baby. I said, I don't know. I hear the word Milo. I hear the name Milo. I'm going to look it up when I get home to see what it means. I got home. I looked it up. And it means merciful. Tell me my God ain't good. Don't tell me that because I ain't going to believe. Hold up. Well, my stuff. Didn't I? Okay. Here we are. This is Milo a few days after I got him. That's him a few days after I got him. I had to, and I'm short, I had to pull my seat back and drive with him on my lap. Literally, because he would not sit. He would not. I had to literally drive with him on my lap. Drove to PetSmart, went in with him. Thankfully, you could take pets in there. I tried to put him on the floor so he could walk beside me because I thought it was cute. He wouldn't let me. He cried and crawled up my leg, so I had to carry him. So finally, he was too, a little heavy to carry, a little chunky baby. So I went and got a dog bed and put it in the center of the basket and put him on the dog bed. And I took him home and he's been following me ever since. The dog won't let me go to the bathroom by myself. I cannot close the bathroom door. He follows me every single where that I go. So I'm saying this to say, pets are therapeutic, and it's a beautiful thing when you help a pet and they help you at the same time. It's a beautiful thing when you help a pet and they help you at the same time. I it's been such a beautiful journey with him. Now, like I said, in the beginning, I started having what felt like allergies, and the enemy kept saying, "You're gonna have to take him back because you." And I made up my mind I would take medicine. I'm keeping this dog, and the allergies went away. And the allergies went away. I kept him. He had his moments. He had 4 accidents in the house total. That's it. When I was raising him, 4 accidents in the house. I kept taking him out. All that. I will say this: don't get a pet and keep them outside. Sister Janika, that's beautiful. I've been thinking about doing a book about Milo, but I never thought about doing one about our experience. I love that idea. I'll definitely get on that. He definitely did. He clung to me from the day that I met him. He clung to me. He never acted like he had any. I'm talking about. He acted like we had, like I had, like I was his mom. I took him home, and this little joker clung to me. I think this is the first day I got him. You see, I could. He wanted to sleep. I had him on my couch. He clung to me. Like, I hope you don't think that you're gonna get away from me, man. I hope you don't think you're gonna get away from me. So that's my baby. I've had him for 9 years now. I've had him for 9 years. So get yourself a pet, but go share your love. Go to some nursing homes. Love on some of the elderly. A lot of them don't have visitors. Go visit them. I tell people this all the time, and a lot of people don't know this. For everybody that say they need therapy and all this other stuff, you'd be amazed if you just go to a nursing home and visit some of the residents. You'll be amazed. There is a truckload of wisdom up in there. And not only you visiting them, you're giving them company. They will give you revelation and wisdom. I had my students to do that in my first mentorship program, and there weren't too many dry eyes that came out of there. Go to some nursing homes in your city. Go visit the elderly. Ask to speak to, to sit with some people, especially people that don't get that many visitors. Go sit with them. Now, you may get yourself some that ain't saved, minister to them. You may get yourself somebody that is decent or what have you, but you can bet your by golly, wow, if you keep going, you're going to meet people that you're going to start going to see all the time. And they will pour so much wisdom into you, so much revelation into you. That's what the Bible talks about, the hoary head, the white hair. There's wisdom there. God taught me, he said, here in America, we throw away wisdom. We are throwing away those elderly people. Those elderly people, we threw them in a nursing home and just completely forgot about them. I'm telling you right now, go to a nursing home. If you don't have such a great experience, go again. Go again. Go meet different people. I've done it myself. But go meet different people, learn from them, tell them, say, hey, this is what are your regrets in life? Ask them questions and stuff like that. And I'm telling you right now, not only will you be a blessing to them, but they will turn and bless you back. I love your beautiful self. I pray that you guys were blessed by this. So sorry that this went over 3 hours, but thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I pray that you got something from this. I pray that this changes your life, it changes your mind, it changes your perspective, and that you go out here and do everything that God told you to do. All right. Take your anointed self to bed. I really appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.